Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Welcome back to Marvel Mania, otherwise known as the thing Eric and I do together now. Today we are going to tackle Iron Man. We are finally into the MCU.
We are.
And we are, and this kind of stunned Eric the other day when I said it. We are about halfway through. We're to about the halfway point, which is madness.
Yeah, that we now have more Marvel movies in the cinematic universe than we have before the cinematic universe.
And think about how many years we've covered.
Yeah.
Because this gets us into 08. This is the year I got married. This is the year of Dark Knight. This is only 8 years ago, and 7 years ago.
9.
Or 9 now, yes, because I can't do math. I want it to, well, I don't want it to still be 2016, but I want it to not be another year already, because I just can't believe how quickly time is going by. But anyway, the point I'm making is, when we began this journey, we transported ourselves all the way back to 1986. And we have gone from 86 to 2008 in, what day is this, 22, 23? That's wild.
Yep. And then we're going to slowly move, because we have like 2 films every year starting 2010?
Yeah.
Or is it 2009? 2009 starts at least 2 years every year.
2 years, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, it's 2010. It is 10. Because 2009 is just Wolverine.
I'm sorry, you mean for Marvel Studios?
I mean just for what we're watching.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
there will be at least 2 movies every year.
Is this the only one in 08?
No, it's Incredible Hulk.
Was that also in 08?
Yeah.
Okay, I can never remember.
No, 08 was the best summer we've ever had. It was Iron Man. This isn't so much all good movies, but as far as like geeky things that came out, there was Iron Man, Dark Knight, Incredible Hulk, Hellboy 2, Wanted.
It's crazy that Hellboy 2 was actually that recently, honestly.
Indiana Jones.
But you're talking about
X-Files.
So you're trying to make the case that was like the biggest geeky summer?
Yeah.
I mean, up to that date, not since then. I think 2014 was a bigger year.
What comes out in 2014?
I mean, like now I'm on the spot. Having said that, I just remember 2014 really being really big. Because that was the year Days of Future Past came out, and I remember having some. Yeah, Age of Ultron was that year.
And Ant-Man.
But besides just Marvel movies, there were some other things
but
I remember there being a lot of things I was looking forward to that year, and I remember thinking that the year before, I guess that 2015 was going to be like the biggest deal, and
I think it doesn't affect me as much now because, well, every year we get 2 2 Marvel movies. And
I'm thinking about it more of ratio to from good to bad now, as opposed to just how many geeky movies come out. Because now that's just it's kind of expected. It's kind of a mulligan at this point. We're just we're so used to that.
I don't know. 2008 just feels real special.
It was, again, it was at the time. I mean, it is special. I just mean, I think that we have had bigger geeky summers since then. And 2012, whether you like Rises or not, was 08 again in a lot of ways, because it set trends again.
Well, it was Avengers and it was Rises. What else came out that summer?
That was Skyfall.
Skyfall was big.
That was a big.
Quantum of Solace came out 08, I believe. And Punisher Warzone comes out. We actually have 3 in 08. Punisher Warzone's out that year.
Yeah, and it is funny you mention that. We'll get to this commentary at some point. It's funny you mention that.
So you said about 2 hours. You were wrong.
Right now, it's just a fly on the wall. That's the thing we do for Patreon. You remind me that was the year that Vince and I started doing the podcast, and we were talking about all those things as they were coming. So I was doing a lot of Star Trek 09 coverage at that time, and I always kind of forget about that because I think of my starting what I do now in 09. But I was weekly talking about the stuff in 08 and all the stuff you're talking about now. For whatever reason, I was really excited about Quantum of Solace at that point, and then I saw it and I didn't like it.
I think it's got a strong third. It's one of the few movies I've ever seen that I think has a strong third act, and the rest of the movie's not as great.
I haven't seen it again since theaters. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Iron Man. And 2014 was also the Lego movie. So I mean, it was a big year.
It was big. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, '08 just felt, I don't know. It feels special because it hit everything.
And it's also the launch of
it wasn't just like comic books or not just superheroes. Like Hellboy's kind of a superhero movie, but like that was a different thing. Wanted was a different thing. Indiana Jones, X-Files sucked. Indiana Jones wasn't that good. Like, it's not that it's all good, but
and a lot of those movies people missed. I think they didn't do
Hancock came out that summer.
That's crazy.
Hancock was 2008.
Yeah. All right, here we go. If you want to watch the movie with us, make sure to get it past the menus and everything, get it to timestamp 0, and get ready to press play when I say now. Here we go.
Heroes was in full swing.
Everybody, please press play right now.
Everyone was watching Lost.
Heroes was on its way out.
Was it?
Oh yeah. Because if you remember, 07 was the writer's strike.
Oh.
And so
2008 is when I leave. Heroes.
Yeah, you were hip deep in Heroes getting to convoluted nutso land.
You're right. I think Revenge of the Fallen might have been 08. Again, not good, but
yeah, it was.
I think 08 might have been G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra.
Yeah. It's also crazy to imagine that I didn't know who Robert Downey was before this movie.
I knew him from Weird Science. And even then, I don't know if you've gone back and watched Weird Science.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, he's unrecognizable?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my mom would be like, oh, he's the bully in Weird Science. And, like, I rewatched the movie, I'm like, I think
I might have a copy. Isn't that movie technically a comic book movie? I can't remember.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because it is based on Weird Science, which was one of the 2 science fiction EC comics. And it's technically based on a story from an issue of Weird Science.
I said this in the rewind, but I love introducing Tony Stark this way. That we see his hand holding a glass of alcohol before we even see his face. Which I felt like was a promise of Demon in the Bottle, and then it seems like they're kind of a little bit trepidatious about going all the way and doing a whole movie about that.
And they kept promising it. Favreau was originally talking about that was going to be Iron Man 2, and then when he started making Iron Man 2, he's like, well, this is the story that gets us to that.
I mean, to his credit, he at least takes us to an alcoholic-looking place in that movie, but it doesn't seem like Tony Stark is necessarily an alcoholic so much as just he's in a bad place, and so he gets drunk right in that moment and has to have that fight with Rhodey.
And then Shane Black has said that if he came back and did like an Iron Man 4, he would not do that story. He's like, I don't know how you do that story and not make that just the movie.
Yeah.
There's no superhero story to tell around that, which, I mean, is kind of true in the comics. I mean,
and I that's what I like. What I might like about it. I just think that would be such a bold move.
I agree.
And I think that at this point, in Marvel Studios' tenure, they can get away with that.
They could just do a period piece.
They should.
I mean, not a period piece, a character piece.
We've done those already. We have had some period pieces. They do that. Agent Carter is a period piece, as is the first Captain America. That line delivery is kind of hilarious. I never noticed that before. A little bit of non-linear here that works.
So I have a question about this. I told you before this. I had a thing that I wanted to bring up in this commentary.
Yeah.
So we do this non-linear.
Oh, and you want to do it now? Okay.
Oh, well, because it ties into this beginning.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm gonna feel real dumb if this is on our original Iron Man commentary, because we've done all 3 Iron Mans together.
Yeah. So this is gonna be weird.
And that was before Iron Man 3?
And that's one of the things that's going to be really interesting about going back to these, and why I loved your idea of doing this so much, is we got to go back to the very beginning, informed by these characters' arcs going all the way through Civil War now. But I'm sorry, so about the non-linear.
So here's my question. Do we do non-linear storytelling here because we want to introduce him sympathetic, and we're afraid if we start at when it starts, we won't like him and therefore won't care when we get to this point?
I want to say we did talk about this.
Okay. Is it that? Or is it Batman Begins? Are we doing this because Batman Begins did it?
I always want to assume that Batman Begins doesn't influence things as much as we would assume it does, with the exception of score. Because Begins was not a huge movie, and then Dark Knight is, and influences everything, and a lot of the things that influence things from Dark Knight were things Begins did already. Again, especially score, but the one thing I notice, for sure, that I can't point to anything else between 05 and 08 that movies are jumping onto, no matter what the genre seems to be, as long as it's dramatic or action-heavy, is that score.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we have enough information to say...
That's not Howard Stark.
No, that doesn't look like Howard Stark at all. But yeah, I love this Newsweek cover.
Me too.
But yeah, I don't, especially because he ends up being the villain, and when you see that cover, you should immediately be like, oh, that's your bad guy. And I didn't, and neither did anybody else, I don't think.
I like the idea, because we do all these covers, in real life. I like that it's supposed to be really dramatic and sad, but he had to pose for that picture.
Yeah.
He has to go to a photo shoot and pose looking sad.
And then Jeff Bridges has to go pose like he's a god and stepping on the world.
No, he's looking down at the world.
Well, you can interpret it that way, but I know what happens in the movie, and I think there's a little bit more to it than that.
That's not Rhodey.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. They got all these weird stand-ins to play these characters. What's going on? Now, going back to the Batman Begins thing, on the other hand, it doesn't have to be a real successful movie for another superhero movie to look at it.
Well,
and
I think it had more influence than you think it had. Because there's a number of franchises...
I'm saying that just based on box office, really.
Well, yeah, but there's a number of franchises that do heavily change, and it's clearly Begins. The biggest one being Casino Royale. Casino Royale is clearly a post-Begins movie.
Which is weird, because Skyfall
is
looking real hard at Dark Knight.
Yeah. See, that's the reason Quantum of Solace wasn't that good, was that they had they didn't have a Batman film to look at while they were making it.
And we talked about this, but of course, Skyfall is also really weird because it's dealing with some of the same themes and ideas Rises is, being a post-Dark Knight movie.
And I think it's the better of the two films.
I think so too. That's not to say that villain plot isn't still somewhat convoluted, but it's more Joker convoluted than it is Bane convoluted.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's more just everything is conveniently timed. The villain's got everything ready.
Do you think there's craps and roulette in this room because of Batman '89? Also, do you also think that?
No, I think it's because they're in Vegas.
Oh. Okay.
If there's any influence, it's James Bond.
Sure.
But man, I'm just...
We're just regurgitating everything, aren't we?
Yep.
We take...
There's Johnny Favs!
There he is.
First time we get to see him in this, in our Marvel Mania, since we had blindfolds for Daredevil.
That's right, we didn't get to see him there. I love him in that movie.
Yeah.
He's fun in these, too.
Yeah.
And weirdly is perfect for both of those roles.
Yep.
Nobody ever talks about how Jon Favreau has played two iconic Marvel characters.
Two iconic Marvel, best friends.
That's right.
And kind of interestingly, when this comes out, it's 2008, Happy has recently died in the comics.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Has he stayed dead?
He has not come back.
Okay.
We can't bring him back. Because of the movies...
We can bring back everybody.
Well, because of the movies, we want to constantly play the Tony Pepper thing.
Oh.
Fraction really puts his foot down and says, they're not getting together, and they haven't been together, but there is this, kind of animosity. I don't know if you know this, they're married when he dies. Pepper and Happy get married.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Weird. Okay. Yeah.
So if you bring him back, you're bringing a lot of complications.
So are you thinking maybe at some point we'll see, an alternate universe version? You have Spider-Gwen, so you end up with, Iron Happy? Maybe that might happen?
Well, and he's piloted the suit before in Iron Man 500. Not 500. 400? 300? I think it's 300. It's 300.
It's one of those
which
big
you
landmarks.
reviewed on Vault.
It is 300.
Yep.
Now that you say that, That's the Iron Man single issue I know I've reviewed.
Oh man, I don't. Well, I needed the Iron Man annual.
Oh yeah, okay, but
which
from that period
barely counts as an Iron Man comic because it's all about the Mandarin. But
it's really good though.
It's great.
You told me forever to read it, and I finally did a vault on it. I should go back and do more of the single issue things. Those are fun. Man. And I don't mind reviewing a single issue out of context. I think it's fun, especially an old one.
I don't know what happens in Iron Man 400. I can't. I know what happens in 500. I know what happens in 300. I don't know what happens in Iron Man 400.
Unfortunately, there's no Mystique anymore. You can just pick up a phone and look it up.
Whatever it is, I'm sure it's not good.
And also, Jennifer Lawrence is refusing to play her, so
that's in the bad stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Before Warren Ellis, but after Kurt Busiek, and I'm not the biggest Busiek Iron Man fan. Although I do need to get the omnibus because they screwed me on the trades. Did I ever tell you about that?
I don't remember.
Okay, so Kurt Busiek has a 25-issue run and 2 kind of oversized...
Should I get water columns in my house?
You should. We all should.
I think water columns are awesome.
But
I also want a tank in the floor with sharks. But anyway, that's not in this movie. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just looking at this room. So there is a thing that I'm trying to... I've always felt like Iron Man 3's Tony's Mansion looked different on the inside. I'm looking at it, and it's pretty much the same layout.
Is it?
Yeah.
But we're in different rooms in that.
But we're specifically in this room because we walk through the door.
Are you sure it's the same set though, or a
I don't know, but I know it looks the same in 2. And
it does in 2, but I'm interested to go to when we get to 3 to look for that now because I didn't think that because the most memorable part of that room I think is the steps, and I don't remember that, but
the garage, however, is very different.
Yeah.
But I think it's also different in Iron Man 2. It's way bigger in Iron Man 2, and it's way smaller in Iron Man 3.
I didn't make the assumption that it was even supposed to be the same building.
It's the same exterior shots.
And this goes without saying, but boy, he's young here.
Yeah.
And her too. You remember after Iron Man 2, she was like, "I'm too old for this," and
yeah,
and she's piloting the suits in 3.
I really like that he's no, she's not. She gets
she just gets one stuck on her.
Yeah.
For briefly, but she doesn't actually fly it.
I
always remember that wrong because in the theater I was like, "Oh, cool, we're maybe doing rescue," and then she doesn't actually pilot the suit.
And there were toys released. I think there was a Lego set released where she's in the armor, and everyone was like, "Oh, she's gonna be in the armor." I love that he's listening to Suicide Tendencies, because I firmly believe that Tony Stark would have been like a punk rock guy in the '80s. It makes perfect sense that he would be listening to that music. I mean, he's a classic rock guy as well, but
if we hadn't gotten that here, it would have been a more appropriate choice for 2. But
the punk rock thing goes away as we really lean into the classic rock thing.
Yeah.
But I don't see Tony Stark as much a classic rock guy as I see him as a punk rock guy. At least for how old Tony Stark's supposed to be.
That's fair. He's right on the cusp, though. I mean, he could have been brought up with it, but then his dad would be a classic rock guy.
Oh, I'm sure he likes it and listens to it.
Necessarily.
But I feel like his choice of music is not that. Especially in this movie, it's not. We hear him listening to music a couple of times, and it's rarely actually classic rock. It's Suicide Tendencies, and there's another time we listen to music.
Has it ever occurred to you how old his dad would have had to have been when he was born?
Yes. I think we've discussed this at some point. Because
there's only so many conversations that are going to come up.
Well, I think it came up when we were talking about the Marvel timeline and stuff. Which this is the perfect time to talk about. Not this commentary, but as we go through this, keep track of it.
We'll keep track of the President Obama thing.
Yep.
And just whether or not and when the years seem to line up with the current date that these come out. And I mean, it's fine if some of them aren't supposed to be exactly the same year, but when we get the drop of how many years are supposed to have passed when we get to Civil War, it does not quite track.
Yeah. So Tony just said a thing that I still say to this day, which is waiting on you now.
This is just the biggest chip.
It's a really big chip.
Oh yeah, you say that to me all the time.
I do. It's from this movie.
Here, have half this chip. This chip's just too big. I can't eat this whole chip. There.
Why don't you just crack it in half and eat half of it?
Well, I could, but it was intimidating me, this chip. So I thought you should have some of it. Iron Man, or Tony Stark, within the first 10 minutes of his movie, is described by someone who knows him well as incapable of being responsible, and he will be the mentor for Peter Parker.
Well, and he's also the only one talking about responsibility and accountability in Civil War.
Yep, it's great.
I mean, he's not the only one, but he's the figurehead of that side.
That's called having a
character arc.
Mm-hmm.
A real track
progression
too.
Uh-huh. It's not just a matter of formulaic, simple character arc. It's a matter of allowing your character to grow,
evolve and grow,
and remembering how that has happened, and not allowing them to regress. And especially for the sake of cheap drama or just a cool moment.
So here's a question. Do you think the Marvel Cinematic Universe will get to the point that the Marvel comic book universe has where we have become completely stagnant? Where you follow Marvel through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, even somewhat in the 90s, and they're always building on things.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do that anymore because we have this idea of, well, every comic is somebody's first comic, and therefore you can't build on things. And we constantly want to go back to what's classic. So we're constantly, a writer will come on, have a run, and get a character to a place, and the next writer comes on and goes, yeah, but I want to do this. So we go back to.
Yeah, those are some of the reasons. It's also somewhat more complicated than that, in that the longer you're evolving characters like you're writing a novel or an ongoing book series, you'll eventually get to a place where there's not much you can do but stagnate. Especially just because of simple passage of time. If you don't let these characters get any older than we're going to let them, it's really hard not to just keep having them go through a lot of the same things over and over again. And that's why I keep making the argument that these movies will go to that place if we recast. If we don't let these characters age naturally, unlike the comics, and then replace them with new characters as opposed to new actors playing the same characters, what you're saying will absolutely happen. And some of that would be still, as you say, because we're stuck in classic and we don't want to let the status quo get too far away from what it was in the first place.
Yeah.
And I say status quo, I mean, it's weird because we keep, in Marvel right now especially, we keep repackaging things where the status quo looks very, very different. And, like, Peter Parker is, running his own empire now.
But it's always a temporary status quo. That
won't be there forever, but even if it's not, we still, like, with like the heart of the character, we feel like we can't let it get too far past what we remember about that guy. He's still got to act like he's in his early 20s.
It's the same reason every time somebody comes on Spider-Man, he's a photographer again. We can't let him grow up.
Yeah,
we have to keep putting him back to that place because that's traditionally what everyone knows him as.
Yeah, and the spirit of that character is not he's a kid trying to find his place in the world. The spirit of that character is he's always growing and evolving like a real person.
That's what I love so much about JMS's run. Like the idea of him being a high school science teacher is just...
It's great.
Yeah. That's where that...
And I don't even mind the idea of him running his own business necessarily if you naturally got him there and if it wasn't after we regressed him back to the early 20s, to his early 20s, not the early 20s. That would be like a noir piece, which we've done.
Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
I only read like the first issue, but I thought the art was really cool.
It's by the guy that did the Iron Man annual. I can never pronounce that guy's name, and I will not attempt.
I don't like those sections in the video game that they pulled him into.
Yeah.
What is that? Shattered Dimensions? Yeah. Just because it was... That whole section was just them doing Arkham.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that
the 2099 parts are really boss.
That has changed since Iron Man 3 came out.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I talk about this in the original commentary, but I can think back to probably what I was thinking then, and things have changed a bit. This is the most hardcore and darkest these movies will ever get, up through Avengers. After this, everything gets a lot lighter, but then after Avengers. You've got stuff in Winter Soldier, you've got stuff in Civil War.
And Winter Soldier definitely surpasses these early scenes as far as heavy stuff we're dealing with.
Yeah. But
just violence,
But thinking back to doing commentary before Iron Man 3, nothing else was doing anything like this. In the Marvel universe, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, nothing else gets close to this.
Yeah, that's right. Even Iron Man 2 doesn't go to that place.
Nope. Nope. It's way bigger. It's way more fun and silly.
It harkens back to it with the beginning and where Vanko starts.
Yeah, at least aesthetically, yeah.
Well, and even like how he's brought up and stuff. Like he's supposed to have a real rough life.
But that's all exposition.
Oh no, we don't get to actually spend any time with it. But the idea is supposed to be he's evil
Tony Stark.
Yeah, and he's like Tony Stark if he was born in and never came out of the cave, which makes him sound like Bane. But there you have it.
This guy's fun.
He is. I like him a lot. A character like this doesn't have to have this kind of presence. Or often doesn't, right? This guy could have been a really generic, phoned-in terrorist guy.
Now, have you
and he
ever...
is memorable, certainly.
Have you ever read the first appearance of Iron Man?
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
So, he's essentially the villain of that issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the best thing ever, because they... after Iron Man, breaks out, he challenges Iron Man to, a sumo wrestling fight, in armor, and Iron Man, picks him up and, spins him on his hand. It's great.
That's great.
I forget what that guy's name is, but it's great.
When Tony tries to refuse here, I mean, this is obviously what this guy would do, but what I want him to say is, no, I was at the demonstration, and this is how your dad did it, and how America does it! That's what I want him to say.
So, this is going to give us the 10 rings, which will never be
culminate into anything.
And it's also, tying the Mandarin theoretically to Iron Man's origins, which is a thing that we did in the comics. Not initially, obviously, but John Byrne's run on Iron Man, which is really fun. He does that, and then Fraction does kind of doubles down on that with the Iron Man annual, and puts Raj, who's the guy that's got the one ring that he's playing with, the guy from Star Trek. He puts him in the comic as being there, and this whole thing.
Interesting.
And this is kind of a big deal comic book wise, because the month this comes out, Fraction's Iron Man starts.
Yeah.
Because for a little bit we've talked about this, at least off camera. Marvel's changed its model a little bit. It used to be, we want a new #1 on the stands when the movie comes out, and now it's, we want a #1 trade on the shelves when the movie comes out.
We want to be into the second arc now.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we use the comic to try to get people excited about about a property we're putting out, or in the case of something like Guardians or even Doctor Strange, characters that people aren't familiar with in the first place. And as I always say, that doesn't usually seem to translate to the general audience, but I think some of their... I've been thinking about this lately, Eric. I think some of the reasoning for that, because we've talked... We talked ad nauseum about the correlation between comic sales and movie sales. I think some of it might be the word of mouth. It's we know that the general audience isn't going to go pick up a Doctor Strange comic because a movie's coming out, or even because they saw the movie and they liked it, but their friends might read comics.
And they might say, hey, there's a Doctor Strange comic out right now that's really good.
Yeah, well, and that's not going to get them to read that comic necessarily or change their sales figures that much, but what they might be thinking is, if you put that character back in the front of the readers' minds, it might translate to more movie sales. It might get their friends to go see the movie because that's a character they hadn't heard of before, and their friends are talking about it. Yep. That might be part of that strategy.
Well, and
it might not be about comic sales; it might be about movie sales.
That might be right. And all of that is interesting going back to 2008, because obviously this is the first time we do it with Invincible Iron Man. We will do it the following year. We will launch Wolverine Weapon X at the same time, written by Jason Aaron, at the same time as Origins comes out. When Thor...
Because we also like to try to make the status quos look similar. And we don't do that anymore either.
No.
At least nearly as much. We used to say, oh, well, you've got a new Hulk, well, when the new Avengers, or whatever it is, when the new Avengers movie comes out, that won't be holding. Now it will now.
Yeah.
We've
Civil War came out, and Cap was and still is Agent of Hydra.
Oh, is he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I read one issue of that, and it was great. Helmut Zemo's back, which means nothing to you, but oh boy, am I excited. He's been dead since the late '60s. I'm so glad that Papa Zemo's back.
I read the first issue of that arc that was, of course, controversial, but I thought it was really good. It was really good.
And it's interesting that he's still an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and nobody knows. We know.
You mean an agent of Hydra?
Yeah, agent of Hydra. We know, but nobody else knows. But so what I was talking about with the Fraction thing is, what's interesting is Fraction's book was created as a jumping on point and as a when you read that first arc, it is really a quintessential Iron Man arc. And Fraction kind of talks about that, about if I was going to write an Iron Man comic, well, just one, this is what it would be. It's a real. This is what an Iron Man comic is like, and then that takes off and becomes huge. And I'm not sure how much of that is affected by the performance of this movie, because there's another Iron Man book going on at the same time called Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., which right before this movie finishes up an arc called Haunted, which is my favorite Iron Man story of all time. And then Fraction's book gets so successful that the writers of that book, who just went on hiatus for 2 months, there's just 2-issue fill-in, they never come back, and that book becomes a War Machine book and then it gets canceled. But I wonder, usually we talk about how movies don't affect sales figures in comics that much. I wonder, given that Iron Man's never been the most popular character, if I'm sure this movie must have had something to do with the early success of Fraction's run.
Yeah. Almost certainly.
Because he wasn't specifically a name at that point, and...
Yeah, I think it... Here's the thing. I think it affects sales figures of what's popular in current, but it doesn't tend to bring a whole lot of new people into reading regularly necessarily, and it doesn't necessarily sell the trades of the stuff the books or the movies are based on.
Yeah.
You won't necessarily see spikes of that stuff.
But
it's got to affect the trends of those of us that are there already. Yeah,
maybe less so now, just because I'm going to imagine that the Ant-Man book didn't do that great. I don't think it's still going.
Read that #1; it was pretty good, but I don't care enough about Ant-Man to keep going.
Well, and I like the writer. He's the guy writing Captain America right now. And it looked like it was going to have a tone of Superior Foes of Spider-Man, which was a book I really liked. But I wonder, and I'm not reading Doctor Strange, but I wonder how many people did pick that up because a movie was coming out and they were excited.
Yeah, and that's not a book I hear a whole lot about now.
Me either. I don't hear anybody talking about it. He's got 2 books now. He's also got the Sorcerer Supreme.
It's too early to tell, but I don't think Doctor Strange is going to be one of the big breakout characters like everybody thought he would.
I don't think so.
I really don't. He was being touted up before that movie came out as potentially being kind of a replacement moving forward for Tony Stark if we don't have him.
And they kind of said that's what they want him to be.
In the movies, I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I mean, he could certainly get people more excited in team movies. And his movie did fine. A lot of people really liked it, and I count myself among them, but I haven't heard people continue to talk about that movie.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So much.
I still hear people talking about Civil War.
Yeah.
But I don't hear people talking about Doctor Strange as much.
Yeah, just recently, a couple of people I haven't talked to in a while were like, oh, I finally saw Civil War. I haven't heard anybody be like, oh, watch Doctor Strange. Now,
it's on a
DVD yet. So...
And
I mean, take that all with a grain of salt, because this is just whoever you happen to know, whatever, in real life, people you know in pockets you're in and stuff. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, I work in a retail industry, and I see a lot of, people that aren't just my circle.
Yeah.
And I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I see kids.
Yeah, I'm not in retail anymore, so I don't have that.
I see kids. They're excited when they see Doctor Strange.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I don't see a lot of adults still talking about it. Although the Civil War will still come up. But
we'll see. I'm interested to see how many kids are dressed as Doctor Strange for Halloween.
Yeah. There's Raj. He's in Star Trek.
He is. He captained the ship at the beginning.
Yeah, which of the 2 people in the opening scene, I think he had the better career, right? He became a real real breakout star. I love that when Chris Hemsworth got cast as Thor, the only thing anyone knew was, you remember Kirk's dad in the beginning of Star Trek?
Remember babyface Kirk's dad?
Yeah. Oh, he's so young.
He was the captain. This guy was the captain of the Kelvin. You don't see a lot of bald starship captains outside of Patrick Stewart, but
and I think I've seen him in some other things.
They should give that guy a miniseries.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be cool. The Kelvin miniseries, they should do it.
Yeah.
Because almost all IDW does right now is still Abrams first, so might as well.
And this is all very intentional, building the Mandarin, talking about Genghis Khan and all that.
Good point. Yeah.
And
it's right because you love Iron Man 3, but if people, even people who didn't know anything about the Mandarin, that had heard of the Mandarin and picked up that they were trying to set him up, you can understand why people were disappointed.
And there's that ring thing, which I'm going to try and pay attention to. He's got a ring. There's this whole thing about how all the bad guys have rings on different fingers. It
would be crazy if later on they turned out to have superpowers, because you would need Tony Stark.
It's true.
You know, you'd have like this massive weapon. Well, one thing that we can't say about this actor is that he gets typecast.
It's true. That's true.
Well, maybe he does in other things. I can't think of anything else I've seen him in besides this and Star Trek.
I want to say I've seen him. You know, I think he's a character actor. Like, I want to say I've seen him in a couple of things.
But he's
nothing sticks out in my brain.
Just because he looks Middle Eastern and ethnic, and like, hopefully this doesn't sound racist to people, he looks like a guy that would end up in this role over and over and over.
Yeah, as the terrorist leader or something like that. Yeah,
like 24 or something, which we keep going to. But
yeah.
He seems like he would have been like a big bad for a 24 season.
I'm surprised he wasn't in 24.
And again, that's not saying that he can't do all kinds of other things, but that it just seems like that's what he would get stuck in.
Yeah,
Hollywood
has a tendency to do that.
Like a lot of these military guys that we see, like if you're an elderly,
poor Clancy
balding,
Brown,
tall guy, you're just gonna play that military role over and over and over again.
Clancy Brown is such a versatile actor, and all we do with him is make him a general.
Over and over and over again.
Disappointing. So we introduced the arc reactor, which I think, looking at the scope of everything up to Civil War, that is the biggest dropped ball with Tony Stark's character. Is the first two movies are all about free energy. The first three movies, counting Avengers,
right.
We keep talking about free energy. We're building towards that, and we just never bring it up again after Avengers.
It's the reason that's real tough, and they probably should have just contrived a reason that he couldn't continue on with that. Because the problem is, Tony Stark would be able to make that big one work at some point, right?
Well,
but the problem is, this world would end up having to look so different.
It's the Watchmen thing. Well, and the thing is,
it is like Watchmen. You're right.
Stark Tower in Avengers, we are told, is completely free, clean energy. He does it.
So
why
doesn't he give that to the world?
Yeah.
It's like he's hoarding it and keeping it for himself, which seems potentially immoral. Unless he's like worried about that technology falling in the wrong hands or something. But we need to talk about it.
Well, and
pre-Ultron, it seems like he wouldn't be so concerned about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing that Fraction picks up and runs with. It's a huge thing in his run, and this is part of the problem with comics today, because we don't care about what's going on in anyone else's book. Fraction did it. Tony Stark is making free energy. He made cars that run on arc. They're RT rigs.
Because Tony in Age of Ultron and pre that movie is concerned with fixing everything he can fix, and then not having to do this anymore. And how much of the woes people go through, the things people fight about, have to do with energy. A lot of it.
Yep.
Maybe even the majority of it.
Yep.
It's there's not enough for everyone, and so we end up fighting amongst ourselves, and you need superheroes. So
one of the things that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is good on, or is good at, is sometimes picking up on things like that.
Yeah.
That's your Iron Man 4, right? Is someone like, the big villain speech is, well, you're so great, and you were going to give everyone free energy. Whatever happened to that?
Yeah. You got so wrapped up in being a superhero, you forgot what you were fighting for in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be kind of interesting if you did something about how he became so obsessed with protection, it didn't occur to him that where he was going in the first place in giving people something that would potentially make them free to the point where some of that protection wasn't necessary. He forgets about that. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, he's here. He's about improving quality of life more than keeping everybody safe.
More than prevention.
Yeah. Although there's certainly a little bit of that in here, but it's almost a character arc he goes through in this film. Is that okay? Well, I can't just worry about terrorists. But yeah, and this felt real.
Well, and this is more about his deciding he can't just worry about his own bottom line. The things I make affect people, and that's where the protection thing ends up coming from. Where it's not just about making whatever the government needs right now. It's about being responsible with what you're making that someone else will use without you. And if you did an energy thing like you're talking about with an Iron Man 4 or something, there certainly is potentially another side to that, where the wrong people with unlimited energy, that's also a problem. There's kind of no right answer.
Or once you create unlimited energy, what does that do to the economy? How many megacorporations is our society built on that's keeping us running all together?
How much of our infrastructure is about limited resources in the first place?
It could be an interesting movie.
It would be real hard not to make that a real preachy movie, I think, but
I don't know. I feel like that's a topic you could really just kind of get into and think about. It doesn't have
to... Then again, I could have said the same thing about Age of Ultron, and I could have said the same thing about Civil War.
That's the lead guitarist for Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, that's great! I didn't know that! You probably said it in the other commentary.
I probably did.
One of the things I loved most about this movie first time around was just how much this looks like the suit in that first issue.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I thought it was really cool they made me believe it, because that suit isn't made out of iron. Or maybe this first one is made out of iron.
This one?
Yeah.
I mean, it's made out of metal.
Okay. But, like, that mask looks like that because of the era it comes out in. Like, we have a lot of futuristic spaceman masks.
It's the Rocketeer.
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, Rocketeer comes later. It's Rocket Man, that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Commander Cody.
And it seems like there's a lot of Japanese things that jump onto that and use that head.
Yeah. It's a big mech head.
Because there's a... I can't think of the name of it. What is the first tokusatsu?
Ultraman?
Yeah. Doesn't Ultraman kind of have a head like that?
Ultraman does kind of have a head like that. He's got a fin on it, but yeah. Well, I guess Rocketeer
also has
Commando
a fin.
Cody have a fin as well.
And importantly, Rocketeer is an 80s throwback to that.
Yeah.
Just for anybody not aware, or thinking that we think Rocketeer comes out.
Yeah.
With it's a throwback to those things.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what else does that head? Oh crap! Now I'm not gonna be able to think of it. Iron Giant does that head.
Yes, Iron Giant does do that head, and that's based on a book that comes out in the 60s, called The Iron Man. And it's also what the I can't think of Ozzy Osbourne's band. The guys that do Iron Man.
Yeah.
That song is a sequel to that book, The Iron Man.
That makes so much sense now.
Yep. And one of the guys...
Black Sabbath. And one of the guys from The Who did a whole rock opera adaptation of that novel, The Iron Man. That sounds like something I should read.
Yeah, apparently, because I've never actually read it. And
musicians like to go back to that.
Because I've never read it. I've always meant to. But apparently, at the end of it, instead of going up with the missile like an Iron Giant, he fights a big bat creature.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I heard that song in the car the other day, Black Sabbath, and I found myself wondering where that Iron Man comes from and if it was just something he made up.
Yep, no, it is a sequel to...
Because it clearly has nothing to do with the comics.
Because at the end of that story, as I understand, he saves the world and ends up just kind of like circling the world in space, like in orbit. So he's looking down at the world and judging them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is a narrative song.
Yep.
Every time I hear that song, because I didn't know where it came from, I always get this mental picture of what he looks like, and I always imagine him fighting Mr. Roboto. I always want to see the Iron Man Kilroy tour.
This is also setting a very specific precedent for this character and for the Marvel Universe, cinematic universe in general. These are not superheroes that, by rule, have a code against killing.
True.
Thor kills,
and a lot
Captain
of them
America kills.
start from a military place.
Mm.
I mean, Tony Stark's not a military guy, but he makes weapons.
And
Obviously he can't initially have an aversion to killing necessarily, because he knows what his weapons do.
And Thor, you wouldn't inherently think military, but he comes from a warrior culture.
Hey, you know all those guys in mech suits that you see on TV? He's the worst one.
That's not as funny as mine.
It's not, but I felt the need to say it.
As my Sandman joke.
Now, your Sandman joke's pretty good, but he's actually setting people on fire.
That's true. That's true.
Sandman was not. And there could be someone watching this that didn't watch that commentary, so...
No, there's not.
Oh, there's got to be people selectively.
Yeah, but Spider-Man 3 is definitely one of the ones you watch, because it's one of the bad ones.
What if somebody only cares about the MCU movies?
I guess that's possible. If you just started watching with this movie, let us know.
Yeah, and we want to apologize because our brains are so mush at this point.
Yep.
I think we're doing all right, Ag.
Does this bother you? I've heard people
so
complain about this
to
scene.
myself. I wondered about it in the theater, certainly.
I've never had an issue with it. He's in a suit of armor. It doesn't bug me.
That's the whole reason it bugs people. And that thing has no padding at all. Like that wouldn't stop. I mean, that wouldn't cushion your fall.
I don't know. It doesn't bug me.
I mean, it wouldn't necessarily kill you, but he should be in worse shape than he's in. It's because he comes from such a high place.
Mm.
The way he drops.
In the Iron Man anime, in the closing credits scene, there's like a montage of things, and that's one of the scenes that they animate is that fall.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's fun.
The
X-Men... Are those animes
anime
supposed to have something to do with these movies?
No, but it's clearly jumping off of these movies.
Oh, okay. I finally got those.
Yeah. No, the Iron Man one is very clearly, it's not based on the movie, but it's clearly kind of that continuity.
You know, the one I'm most curious about is the Blade one.
Me too. Me too. And especially the Iron Man anime movie, The Rise of the Technovore.
You said that was really bad.
It's really bad. Oh, it's nonsense. But
so that's different from the series?
It's the same studio. I guess there's probably an argument to be made that it's the same continuity.
Oh, real? Okay. I just didn't even realize that was a different thing. I thought that's what that was.
Oh, no. That's a movie that came out. Okay. That's at least in continuity with that Black Widow Punisher movie that apparently is the worst thing ever.
I got that. I haven't watched that yet.
Because
I think there's another one or two things from that studio that have come out that I've heard nothing about at all.
Oh, interesting. But so in the anime,
I saw something on Netflix. I was like, what is that? But I can't remember.
I saw one that was Hulk and Thor. Hulk and Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew Hulk was in it, but I couldn't remember who the other
But that looks like Agents of Smash. That might be just like a TV special they did. The standard MC. Or,
maybe.
Marvel
maybe
animation.
we're talking about. Maybe we saw even different things. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm sorry.
But so in the Rise of the Technovore animated film, Ezekiel Stane is the villain, and you see his father, and it is just Jeff Bridges in this movie.
That's great. So he's gonna say that he wants an American cheeseburger.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, I'm not gonna go get cheeseburgers.
We shoulda.
Just because
you offered on the way back, you're like, "Hey, you want to get a cheeseburger?"
I was like, "You want to get a cheeseburger?"
And if I was thinking,
but I'm not gonna actually go out and get one this time
thinking,
because that joke is funny one time.
Yeah, no. But if I was thinking, I would have gotten one just cause.
I wish I'd stuck to my guns and just stopped and gotten one, but
yeah,
should have done that.
You know what else is a thing?
It's my car. You know,
that we set up here and then don't talk about for a while, and then we do a lot with in Age of Ultron. Rhodey's whole thing about drones. Well, I guess we do that in the second movie too. Yeah, that is a repeated theme with this. Because Rhodey has a whole speech about how
I haven't thought enough about that character.
But Rhodey has a whole speech about in this when he's talking to his to the like new recruits or something. He has a whole speech about man or unmanned. You know, will drones replace human pilots? drones will never, a computer can never think about a situation the way a person can. He has a whole speech about that, and that's something that we'll use in the next movie, but we're not saying anything with it, and then we'll actually deal with that in Age of Ultron. This guy didn't go on to anything.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is. But dude,
hey, how come you don't know what your organization is called? It was formed in the 50s.
Tony Stark's dad had something to do with that. I've seen the things after this, and
this doesn't make a lot of sense to me with the history of this universe that you've established.
That is just as weird as all these actors that are playing characters that we know for sure don't look like this. It's really weird. I always wanted to see the crowd just comically go, oh.
We get to see that scene in Civil War. I never got to say goodbye to my father.
That's right.
We see them leave.
That's a good point. They're thinking.
Yeah. And then we get to watch them die.
For that good at paying off things that many movies later, and with new crews that had nothing to do with this in the first place, too. Yeah. Why is it so difficult? Often we've gotten better at it, but why has it sometimes been so difficult to make after credit scenes that actually line up and have anything to do with things that come later? Yeah, it's likely sink it inside of the movie, but if it's at the end of the movie, you're gonna forget it.
In a certain way, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is closer to the 60s and 70s and 80s Marvel than the current comic books.
Oh,
they really are paying attention to each other and building on each other, and sometimes there are some mistakes.
Sometimes there's continuity in the way they're structured.
Yeah, sometimes there's some continuity gaps and things don't exactly
line up.
But
they're talking to each other more.
But they're talking to each other.
This is why
and they're building off of the ideas of other people and things like that.
That's why I love the Marvel Star Wars comics so much.
Because they're doing that as well.
Because it's Star Wars done like a Marvel book, done like a classic Marvel book, or like the classic Marvel universe.
Well, it's so weird because I believe it's Axel Alonso. I love that he's riding a Segway. Because of course he's riding a Segway. We've really lightened up on our Segway jokes as a culture. I don't know when the last time I saw a Segway.
I think there's a direct correlation between Segway jokes going away and like the culture becoming overall more geeky. It's just not as funny to make fun of nerds riding Segways because
and probably
it's become more mainstream. And once you have selfies and selfie sticks, like that, like game over. Like,
and technology.
That's a thing we would have made fun of people for 10 years ago. That freaking everybody does now.
Should be making.
No,
we should belittle them and we should make them feel bad.
I've taken selfies, but the selfie stick thing, I don't.
No, selfies is fine. It's the selfie stick.
No, I've never done that.
And especially in theme parks. Because they take up so much space and they stand in the middle where everyone's walking. Which is the main reason people get selfie sticks, is for vacations, and it's obnoxious.
Here comes... Oh, wait, no, that's later, never mind. I took a selfie with Kirk Busiek.
Oh, did you?
In Metropolis.
No, there's nothing wrong with selfies. It's selfie sticks I have an issue with.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of selfies. I like making weird faces at cameras, as some of you may be aware of, but... But what are you going to do when you have nobody else there to take the picture?
Yeah, but these are people, like, at theme parks and at, like, attraction locations, and it's because we're not talking to each other anymore, we don't want to ask people to take your picture for us.
Oh, no, that's fair. I'm just saying that, like, I generally done it when I just didn't have anybody else to take a picture.
Yeah, well, that's different. But, going back to the Segway, I think we are more...
it comes off so slimy once you know what's going on. I feel so stupid for not calling this in the theater.
I read the comics. Although, my mom called it.
It's more fun if you don't know the comics.
My mom called it, I forget when, but there is a point in the movie where she goes, oh, he's the bad guy, isn't he? But it might be when they make it really obvious. Yeah, but it might just be when
they make it really obvious.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
She might have said that when he walks into the room with Pepper Potts at the computer. He's still on.
Yeah. And I remember seeing this in theaters and being like, this is insane. No one would watch a show like this. No one would make a show like this about stocks.
I knew at the time that was already a thing.
I didn't know, and I was just like, why would you watch a show like that?
But this being the first movie in this universe, it's really smart of them to upfront say it's supposed to look like our world to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
The cultural staples are there.
Shield, Captain
our famous
America.
people are some of our famous people are their famous people.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about current present day.
Yeah.
And we do some of that in Iron Man 2 also. There's one or two...
Larry King's there, but
that's
Larry King's
right,
in every
Larry
movie.
King, yeah.
Although I'm surprised, we have not had Larry King yet. Iron Man 2 will be our first Larry King, which really surprises me.
Because he shows up in everything.
He shows up in everything. I really like the aesthetic.
I just did a rewind for Blank Man. Blank Man has Arsenio Hall.
I really like the aesthetic difference between the two arc reactors. They're slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. It's a nice design thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they did that because there's a progression.
Yeah. But to get back to the segue,
I love this scene.
It's a good scene. And I'm still impressed by the prosthetic.
It starts the heart motif, and you know my whole thing with the heart motif.
Well, I've always been impressed with this scene because...
Well, it doesn't start it. I mean, it starts in the cave, but you know what I mean? It starts with roping in the arc reactors, but well, no, actually that's there too, because he builds that in the first place.
Yeah.
It's where I start thinking about it and realize what's going on. Go ahead.
When they bring up Holy Heart.
Yeah, right. Once that happens,
yeah. Your brain just goes, oh, there's a heart thing.
I'm just like your mom, you know. At the right moment, I pick up on it. Or I a genius.
But because obviously she's not reaching into his chest. This is entirely a prosthetic body, but you cannot tell that he's not laying down. Like he doesn't look uncomfortable. It looks amazing.
Yep.
Anyways, about the segues. So I think the reason we stopped making fun of segues,
really,
the reason we stopped making fun of segues is, or part of it is, even from this movie, we are far more technologically based as a society. I mean, everyone has not just cell phones but smartphones. Everyone has Netflix. Everyone has.
But is the Segway thing funny because it's got a motor in it?
No, it's because it looks fun when you drive around in it, and it seems lazy.
Well, sure, but what does that have to do with our being more technically, which I would argue is just
because we now use technology.
We're to a point where because everything has a computer in it, we can't make fun of people for liking computer stuff and knowing as much technical jargon.
Well, because everything is now so technologically based, and we use technology for everything.
Yeah.
Looking at something like a Segway, I don't think necessarily is as inherently just like, well, that's stupid. Why wouldn't you just walk? Because there's plenty of things that are stupid that we could do that we now let technology do for us.
I also don't think as many people are using them. I think it was a fad for a moment.
I've always
but you're right.
Segway.
But you're right. If people use them, I don't think they'd get made fun of as much now.
Yeah.
You make a really good point, and that is probably part of it, but I still say part of it is we said that was nerdy, and now we don't care that things are nerdy.
Mm-hmm.
I would go as far as to say that there are kids that would listen to White and Nerdy now and not get why some of those things are supposed to make you socially awkward and silly.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. The
X-Men comics, okay, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. X-Men comics are not even part of the Marvel Universe. Why would you read those?
Who cares? Deadpool was one of the biggest movies last year. All bets are off now. Like,
yeah. And the second highest grossing R-rated film of all time, behind Passion of the Christ.
There was a time where there were certain places that I would go and not really want to necessarily take comics and sit down and read just because I might attract unwanted attention. Does not happen anymore.
Nope.
Well, in fact, I do sometimes attract unwanted attention. It's a different kind of attention.
Yeah.
It's people coming up wanting to know what I'm reading.
Yep.
I'm sorry, were you going to say something about the scene?
He just had a little speech about
the drones. Yeah. Now, I'm just now formulating this, so I don't have an answer to it, but do you think that his view on that specifically in any way shapes where he lands on the Civil War argument?
I don't know.
Now I kind of want to look at his worldview a bit closer, you know?
Yeah.
Because it has to be more than just, well, he sides with Tony Stark. Because obviously...
Well, it's clearly
Because obviously Falcon, it's more than just he sides with Captain America.
Well, it's certainly a little bit of accountability. Like that's part of why you would be pro-human fighter jets as opposed to drone planes, because there's no accountability for a machine. No one is ever going to have a coding error in their brain that makes them fire when they're not supposed to fire, or something like that. So you could read into it maybe, and I mean, given Iron Man 2, I guess maybe accountability is a predominant character trait with him. We'll have to watch for that. We'll have to remember that as we get to all of the movies with Rhodey. Do you know what mark we're on now?
I have no idea.
Because I want to say Iron Man 3 is 42 or 43. Age of Ultron would be 43 or 44. I don't think he changes. No, he does. He does get a new armor in Civil War. It's the one with all the RT nodes. So he's probably at 45 now. Which we kind of cheat with Iron Man 3 when we do like a bunch of them, but
yeah, because he's got the one in Civil War where he can press a button on his thumb and it just shoots out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. No. Yes.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. I love the progression from that. Well, because the first thing he does is he's just got an arm in one scene.
Yeah.
When he's in a suit, he's in like a suit and tie.
Yep.
And then later in the movie, he's going to actually suit up and he just presses a button.
Well, but it's in this plane. It's like, because we're going to get the suit up scene in this. Yeah,
because he's not able to just bring it.
It's like that, but like super streamlined and advanced.
Oh, that's right. He doesn't spring out from a little thing.
No, he just presses a little thing, and it's. But it's like the Incredibles. The seat goes back and the suit comes on.
That's what it is. Yeah. My favorite armor is still the suitcase armor.
In the comics or in the
no, in 2.
Yeah,
just because I think it looks awesome.
It does. It looks really cool, and
not just the way he suits up. Like I like the look of it.
Well, and I know for a fact.
I like how stripped down it is.
I know for a fact.
Cool.
In the commentary for Iron Man 2, I talked about how that should have been the armor at the end of the movie.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
This whole thing with that.
No, is the suitcase armor a comic book thing? I'm sure you told me about all this.
Oh before. Yeah. He used to carry it around in a suitcase. If we ever actually do Demon in the Bottle, which I'm sure in the original commentaries we joked about how we've been saying we were going to do Demon in the Bottle for years. Yeah, he opens up a suitcase and in the comic it's like got gloves and his helmet and like he puts them on and the actual arm bits just go like shoot.
Suddenly this feels real Chronicle.
Yeah. The Chronicle feels real this.
Yeah. Well, because there's a gag like this in Chronicle, I think.
Yeah.
And because it's a...
See, people complain about that fall, but they should complain about this.
Yeah, because that should really hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would have to go to the hospital after that. It's hilarious. And it's still funny.
Yep. It's interesting how much his performance has evolved. He is not playing him the same way in Civil War as he is here.
Yep. And some of that's because he's a really good actor and he just knows where he is in his in the character place he's at. And some of it is he himself has grown and matured and changed a lot since this.
Yeah. Because this is his comeback.
Right.
He does this and Tropic Thunder, and he gets nominated for Tropic Thunder. He does this in Tropic Thunder, and all of a sudden, he's a name. Before this, he's the like warning of like up and coming Hollywood actors, of like somebody who really had potential, but went the bad way. Before this, he does Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And that partially gets him this role because that was the first big movie he did where it was big. It was a real small movie, but like that was the first bigger movie he did where it was like, okay, this guy can be reliable. He can be on set every day. He can, and so that movie is a big part of why he gets this role or why they're willing to hire him. And I don't know how much of this is stuff that they say to hype Iron Man 3. But they said that while they're making this movie, because he's friends with Shane Black after Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, that occasionally they just call him and just like kind of soundboard off Shane Black making this movie.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about how much of this movie is improvised and how much of it is being written as they're going along, and how they didn't have a full, real concrete script yet, and that this easily could have completely fallen apart, and we wouldn't be anywhere like where we're at now.
Yep. Jeff Bridges.
This is essentially the Star Wars of comic book movies.
Yeah, yeah.
In that way.
Jeff Bridges talks about how they did not have a script. Which is...
Was he frustrated, or did he enjoy that?
I don't know, because it was written.
Oh.
It was a written interview, so I couldn't get inflection. I don't know if like he was kind of like laughing about it, or if he was kind of annoyed, but like he talked about how...
To say a fact.
They basically just had scenes. And this is the information we're going to convey in this scene. And it's so kind of malleable.
I like the symbol of the pizza, of Stain wanting to take what's his, and that whole thing's really smart. And not a thing you would think you could get except inside of a script somebody wrote.
Well,
but
except
there
that,
had to have been, at least an outline.
He brought the pizza.
Yeah,
Stain brought the pizza. So it's not him trying to get what Tony...
Oh, that's true. That's true. Okay.
Well,
yeah, but he's probably still using his money.
I don't know.
Anyway.
But so, this script was so malleable...
I haven't fully thought out that idea.
That, the villain of this movie is supposed to be the Mandarin. And when Jeff Bridges signs on, the idea is a trilogy arc where he's the villain in the third film. And he would be seated across... Like, he would be in this... And maybe would be a good guy that...
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been really cool. Jeff Bridges is hired and, like, goes and does, like, a little bit of research. He's like, oh, I'm gonna get to wear a cool, like, suit of armor. And, like, well, no, that's gonna be later. And then...
so is he partially responsible for that? Where he's like, I'm gonna wear it now?
No, he was just... The way he talks about it, and I've actually heard him talk about this, is that he was kind of bummed. I think he talks about the special features. But he's kind of bummed, and then he... And then he gets a phone call, and it's like, actually, we rewrote the script. You're going to get the suit of armor in this movie. So, that's how he was already cast in the role, and it went from being a supporting role to the villain of the film.
This would have been even less of a superhero movie if they had done that.
Do you think so? I think it would have been more of a superhero movie.
No, because you wouldn't have...
You could have gotten the Mandarin maybe a little bit more naturally, given that he's the guy behind the...
You wouldn't have necessarily had the obligatory superhero third act where they have to fight the street for no reason. If he wasn't supposed to wear the suit in the first place, who knows what your third act would have been, and you still would have had... I mean, the Mandarin was supposed to be in this. You still would have had a villain fight. But I'm telling you, that sounds... That's always sounded like a rush job to me, as far as, like, getting him in that suit, and there's, like, no motivation at all. Why he's got to rush out like that right then when he's been so cloak and dagger.
I cannot find any other details about that earlier script. Like, I want to read that script, or at least I want to, like, read, like, a scriptment of it. Like, what was the Mandarin's role? Because you can really easy, I think, see in this movie how a third act would be the Mandarin. Going back to...
Yeah.
Because we do just kind of drop that at the end of this movie.
Where we kind of... You mean like we kind of reveal what's behind all of the terrorist organization stuff?
Yeah, and
that's a big reveal.
And you could still seed Stain as the villain and reveal that he did sell Tony out, but he's not the villain of the film.
You wouldn't even have to reveal that in this movie necessarily.
But I think it would be interesting and maybe kind of cool if you did reveal it in this movie and he didn't.
Sure. Yeah. That also begins a tradition and a trend with these movies that I haven't really thought about. That it starts all the way at the beginning, of just well-known veteran actors, specifically as villains, but just taking older, really well-known, respected veteran actors who give the movie a little bit more credibility.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing with Marvel.
But that you're not just selling the whole movie on and making it like a okay, that's a Ferris wheel and nothing happens to it.
It's true. It's true.
See, those kids are
that kid's ice cream fell off.
That's true, it fell off.
That's a bad thing happening on a Ferris wheel.
For that kid, he doesn't seem to mind. He got to see Iron Man.
Who packed that ice cream?
Yeah.
Because it really looks like...
a real bad job. Mm-hmm. Looked like a plastic piece of ice cream.
Iron Man should go beat up that guy.
That's right. That's what he stands for, Eric. Making sure the kids are happy.
This is a nice bit of...
I was talking about something. I don't know. Anyway.
You were talking about the veteran actors.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the thing we're already doing.
Yeah, yeah. And we will continue to do it.
That's all I had.
I mean, Mickey Rourke. He is a veteran actor.
Well, of course, the villain in Winter Soldier. Well, I can't think of his name right away, but
yeah. Even Hugo Weaving, Anthony Hopkins. We get like one every movie.
Winter Soldier is one of the bigger deals, though, because
Robert
Redford was always the star of those kind of movies.
Yeah,
and now he's the bad guy.
Yep. Ben Kingsley.
They were kind of doing the thing with Ghost Rider and the Devil that we talked about.
Yep. No, exactly. This is a nice bit of setup payoff that I feel like it's really natural. Of just like, well, he likes to test the limits. Okay, I can't do this, so I'm gonna make a thing that can do that, and then later it comes in handy. It doesn't feel as contrived as sometimes things like it's not like where they do it badly. The bad version of that is Green Lantern.
Yes, which of course is taking a lot of its cues from this movie.
Yeah.
And that movie is clearly scripted to the letter.
Yeah.
And does not have a good script.
Are you sure that was the moment that made you realize the hard thing, or it wasn't this moment?
No, it was before this.
Are you sure?
I'm smarter than that. No. Yeah, but you can just keep questioning my credibility, and I'll keep wondering why you bothered to show up. Who is the doofus in this situation is really my question.
Who's the fool? The fool follows him.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I kind of want one of those.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool, nice little thing to have.
Yeah, they make those.
Do they?
Or they did. I mean, there's probably nobody making that now, but...
Florida's a very different place from Kansas. I
right?
lamented to you how I can't get just an arc reactor shirt, and you're like, they sell them at like every store in the mall.
Yeah.
It's been years.
See, in the theater, I assumed that guy was the Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
And that they would reveal at the end that he's actually the Mandarin.
That
it could have worked.
Yeah.
Sure.
Although I think you would have cast a bigger actor. Maybe not.
Not necessarily. If he's what you wanted the character to look and act like, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's true. And this is also the beginning of a thing that Marvel will do for a little bit and has kind of gotten away from, which is the we like to cast people that are slightly past their prime as our heroes. You know, Chris Evans never really had like a huge career. Obviously, Chris Hemsworth was nobody, but like we're doing that for a little
really
bit.
Yeah.
We're grabbing people that aren't going to be super expensive because they're a falling star as opposed to a rising star.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And we don't do that now. Like Benedict Cumberbatch's a huge name. We got him as the lead.
Well, and we're also not afraid to cast people that are unknowns, that are wet behind the ears and new.
Yep.
But that's different, of course, from somebody who seemed to have a shot and missed it, or was a character actor, or just didn't have a massive career. Yeah, because Chris Evans, kind of nobody was talking about.
Yeah, no, he was just kind of a character actor, working actor.
He showed up. Well, not a character actor, because he got leading roles, but...
That's true. That's true. He's got that push movie.
Yeah.
But
that's one of the... I never watched that, but that's one of those, like, on the cusp, like, I don't know if that's supposed to be a superhero movie or not.
It seemed really, like, heroes.
Yeah.
He's got a thing with numbers. Stark 4? He likes to number his things.
That might be they're trying to be clever with his with doing his cars, like his armors.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant.
He
likes to number his things.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Now, obviously, you would number the armors because it's like I have this one, and it's like numbering operating systems, right? Like, he's only using one at a time.
Yeah.
Cars would be different. He's not making them, first of all, and that's not necessarily the order. I mean, that might just be the order he bought them in. I don't know.
I'm sure we had this conversation last commentary, but is he supposed to be Hugh Hefner, or is he supposed to not be Hugh Hefner and he's being confused as Hugh Hefner?
You be the judge.
I'm gonna
go with the latter. I want it to be the latter.
That he's not Hugh Hefner and he's just confused as Hugh Hefner? Yeah, I will go the former, sir.
Unless we make it a trend and we keep having Stan Lee play famous elderly men, because that's hilarious.
And we do that in the second one. He's Larry King for like 5 seconds.
I think that's also a place where you could argue that he's being confused for Larry King.
Especially since Larry King shows up later.
In these?
In Iron Man 2.
Oh, in Iron Man. Okay.
Oh, no, it's not Larry King in Iron Man 2. It's, I can't. It's Bill O'Reilly in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I didn't think Larry King showed up in any. I don't know if he shows up in MCU at all.
Yeah, I guess maybe he does. Well, he hasn't shown up in any other movies yet. So yeah, maybe we don't get him at all in this.
I don't remember. The only thing I can immediately, because yeah, he seems to show up all over the place. The only thing I can immediately remember him popping up in is Ghostbusters. That's the first thing I think of.
I think that was the first time he did it. So
where is Elvis, and have you spoken with him lately?
When he was over at the bar, that's one of the first 2 pictures we ever got of this movie. Was him at the bar, and then a shot of one of the weapons cases that says Stark Industries. Those were the first 2 images we got for this movie.
And then I guess I was following this too, because after that there was the shot of him with his arms open when he's doing the speech. That was another early shot.
And I'm not the biggest Iron Man fan before this movie comes out.
Really?
Yeah, I like Iron Man. I'm reading Iron Man, but he's...
This is a great joke, and clearly something he just came up with.
Yeah.
What's your social security number? 5.
I like Iron Man, but I'm not reading anything Iron Man that like super grabs me at the moment. I won't come to love Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. till a couple of years later. But he was just one of many superheroes where I'm like, oh yeah, I liked them when I was a kid. I still kind of like them.
Which you changed a lot in 2 years then.
Oh yeah.
Because then the sequel comes out.
Yeah, by the time the sequel
like
comes
it's the best
out,
thing that ever happened.
Yeah, and
I just assumed you were a big Iron Man fan before that, because I didn't meet you until a year before that, and you were really heavy into Iron Man, so I just assumed you grew up an Iron Man fan.
I'm becoming an Iron Man fan before this movie comes out, and then by the time 2 comes out, I'm completely...
I bet we do that with people more often than we realize, where you know someone as a mega fan of a thing, and it's because they're so immersed in it and love it in the moment that they have this perfect recall of everything that they've been looking at, and so they look like they've been into it forever. Like, you can't always tell that with people.
Yeah, yeah.
There are things like that with Steve Baxi, where he knows and loves the thing so well. Like, Batman Forever, but then there's the movie. But then there's a lot of other things where...
A lot of people don't know about Steve Baxi. He's just on the TV in the background, Batman Forever.
That's all he's ever watching.
On loop.
But I mean,
he could do a quote along to Batman Forever.
But I've had that with him with some characters where it's like, oh, you only just recently got into this character, but you seem like you've been.
He has that with
forever.
Iron Man. He went and read like all the Iron Man, and now is a big fan of the character. Constantine is similar. He just keeps taking my stuff.
He takes all your stuff.
But
he did not do it with Spawn. He doesn't take my stuff.
No. Well, Spawn.
Yeah.
Iron Man's good.
I also don't want to claim Spawn. You know, Spawn is like my wicked stepchild or something. Like, I don't want to claim that.
Well, and one of the things I always point to in Iron Man that nobody ever talks about, because nobody talks about Iron Man comics really, except for Demon in the Bottle, and Bendis just not only seems to have ever read Doom Quest. It's the only Iron Man story he ever talks about is Doom Quest. It's why when Iron Man #1 came out, and he made this big deal out of, like, the internet's gonna flip out when they see this character reveal at the end of issue 1. That thing that we just went past, that was the picture. And I was like, it's Dr. Doom. The only thing you seem to care about with Iron Man is the one story where he fought Dr. Doom.
So this Middle Eastern place called Gulmira. I wonder if that's a place they made up, or if that's a comic book thing, or if that's a real place.
I do not know.
Most of the time when we do a place, something like that in these movies, it's a fictional location.
Yeah. But so anyways, what I was going to say, one of the nice things about Iron Man comics is it basically has a 200 streak run of nothing but good comics. From like 100, like 95 to, I think it's 318. There's like a maybe 10-issue gap of not great stuff where it's just kind of filler. But just unbroken streak of good comics. Nobody talks about it. crunching. I think this is the moment where my mom was like, "Oh, he's a bad guy," or "He's the bad guy."
Yeah, but that's not a hard leap.
No.
In fact, when they make it a reveal, it's weird.
Yeah,
because it seems like that's the reveal.
Well, it's the reveal that he's working against Tony. I don't know if it's the reveal that he is the villain.
No, certainly not. But it's just it doesn't take you by surprise necessarily.
Yeah, which maybe that's what they would have done.
This is another early shot we got on the internet
yes.
before this movie came out.
It's a cool shot too.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe that's another way we would have gone, is that he would have been a bad guy in this film, and he would have left and formed like Stain Industries or something at the end of this film. Something like that.
Yeah, it could have been really cool if we got that scene, and
Iron Man 2 would be cooler if it wasn't Hammer and it was him.
What I was going to say is if he seems misguided and well, no, that's not where I was going to go with this. We're like, oh no, it was that shot.
Yeah. Yes. You're right.
Where he's doing this at the screen. No. I wasn't. Because I'm not going with your he goes off to form his own company thing. What I was going to say is it might have been cool if he seems to be working against Tony because he's misguided, but like he's acting like his heart's in the wrong place or in the right place because he says it's the only way I can protect you. And then Tony they seem to make up at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but he's actually doing machinations in the background and was working with his terrorist group. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And I'm sure I talked about this though. He is basically no relation to his comic book counterpart.
Stan.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they couldn't do him aesthetically like he is in the comics because you'd think he was just Lex Luthor, even though he was created before businessman Lex Luthor.
Uh-huh.
But he's a bald guy and he runs a business. But no, he's obsessed with chess. That's his big thing. Is he views life as a chess game.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
It works in the comic.
Well, sure.
What doesn't is that his henchmen are the chessmen, and they're villains themed after chess pieces.
That's awesome.
Well, he also had a big diamond in his forehead for a little bit, and then we just stopped drawing that, and we don't really talk about it.
That's all. That's like the Royal Flush Gang.
Yes.
But what I was gonna say is, we do the chess analogy everywhere, and it's become such a cliche. It hardly works anymore. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it, and that I don't still see it, like handled intelligently, and like that's just
the X-Men film.
That's just the right analogy for things. Well, I mean, the most recent thing I can think of, and it's in this continuity, is Luke Cage. I love the way it works in Luke Cage. But for your main bad guy in your first Marvel movie, I'm real glad they didn't do that. This is just so obvious. I also got real sick of the chess thing because it was done so poorly in Spawn again. With what's his name? The guy that looks like Jason Wynn but is not Jason Wynn.
Mammon.
Mammon, yeah.
It's got the big dumb mutant.
All I can think of was Man of Miracles. Anyway.
Well, I mean, the chess thing actually works better with Stain in the comics, probably because halfway through that run he wins.
Oh, interesting.
He takes Stark Industries, and Tony Stark becomes a drunken bum on the streets. So like, it's not just like he always thinks about things about chess. It's he always thinks about things about like chess, and he wins. Because I think that's the thing is we use that as a villain trait a lot, and then they lose.
I think you're gonna say they play it like he's got Tony Stark in check, and then Tony Stark checkmates him.
I feel like that's how we usually do it.
Yeah,
that's not what happens. He loses, and I mean, he comes back, but it's another like 25 issues.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's when Rhodey takes over. All of those people are dead.
Yep. It's a war zone.
But that, I don't know, that felt like kind of a big deal and like a distinct choice.
It did, yeah. Well, and that's why it works, I think, is because it is a choice. It's not just willy-nilly, well, we're killing people because it makes for a cool shot.
Yeah.
Although you can't be sure that doesn't kill that guy.
And it's also part of the...
Like, he didn't do that to kill him. You pull a guy through steel and rock like that? I don't know.
Well, we'll have to talk to Rasco because he broke down the science in Man of Steel or in BVS.
Yes, he did.
But
you can tell he'd been rehearsing in front of a mirror that morning.
I've always thought this scene was weird. That he just randomly gets shot and then comes down and shoots a tank. I don't know, right? Like, this is weird.
Because you have to have the cool guys don't look at explosions shot.
Yeah.
At least it's not in slow motion. Or if it is, it's real subtle.
But this is one of the biggest reasons that Deadpool rings so false, and we'll talk about that when we get to Deadpool. But like, he has that whole thing about like all the superheroes are like a bunch of goody two shoes, and they won't kill anybody. Oh man, I just stabbed a guy. I'm like, Marvel Cinematic Universe opened with a guy who takes out like 8 guys at once, and we will continue to have that level.
It's not collateral damage. It's not like
no.
Hopefully, you're not paying attention.
Yeah. It's an intentional,
it's not careless, and we're not questioning his morality. We know what his morality is.
Is that guy there who's in Dark Knight?
What guy?
One of the guys on the control panel is the guy in Dark Knight who's like, I crunched some numbers, and they didn't add up.
Are you sure?
Yep, I'm positive. I guarantee you we had this conversation last time we did this.
Okay, no, I'm sure we did.
I guarantee you I kept being like, see, it's him there, and then we cut, and I'm like, no, he's right there. Cut.
I don't remember. All right. I'm sure he's there then.
We also, we've really scaled back Rhodey being in the military.
Yeah, that's right.
He's more like post-military service at this point, at least in Civil War. That's what it feels like.
It's because we're trying to make him a straight-up superhero along with everybody else.
Because, I mean, at least in Iron Man 3, I guess he's still working for the military.
Well, yeah, he has to, because
but at least in a different capacity. He's not in the military like this. He's going on like recon missions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I love describing distance as clicks. It's so easy if you just flip it. I was jogging. Now I was jogging back to my car.
That's true.
So easy if you just flip it.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you improvise some of these things. But yeah, all the banter in this is real punchy.
Yeah, yeah.
Whiplash. I always wondered if that was an intentional choice or not.
There he is.
I gotta get a better look at him. I don't think that's who that is. I actually don't think you're right.
It's a lens flare there. Did you see that lens flare?
Uh-huh.
Notice I didn't completely overtake the screen and isn't in every scene of this movie?
No.
That's a sign of a good director. And
well, and also I think it was. Were we inside the cockpit at that point? Because that would make a lot of sense to have a lens flare inside the cockpit.
No, maybe.
I think maybe we were. I'm not sure. Anyway.
But this is a big thing for Favreau. Before this, he makes Zathura and Elf. Those were his 2 directorial.
So he hadn't done. I wasn't even looking. So he hadn't done a big action movie like this.
No,
never.
Yeah, and then after Iron Man 2, we'll go do Cowboys and Aliens, and that's not gonna go great.
Nope. No, and that looked like it should have been so much fun.
That's the Iron Man ringtone. Or that's the
cartoon.
Yeah, that somebody brought up in the comments of one of the videos. I think it was Spider-Man 1 probably.
Yeah.
Where we talked about doing the theme song, yeah. This is a world where robotic suits don't exist. Maybe you could elaborate
what
on
do you mean it's a suit? Looks like an Iron Man. Seems like if it's a man, if you think it might actually be a man, the next thing you say maybe isn't shake it off. Well, maybe you do because it can do things to you. It clearly is capable of flight, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Unless this is an unrelated problem.
I don't know how the military feels about like
0 casualties. Sorry.
About like alien invasions, things like that, but that's where my mind would first go. It's like, there's an alien robot attacking! I always knew! Because nothing like that exists on this Earth. I'm sure of that.
I don't think that's where you'd immediately go to if you were a military person. I think if you were a dude and, you know, just, like, an uneducated person standing on the street and you see that, but...
You didn't have to punch into it. He knew that was going to work.
I think you'd be more likely to think it's a drone.
Yeah.
Or something that another country made.
Just drone better.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Look, he can't get his head in that. That is my favorite scene in that movie.
Mine's
funny.
Mine's him selling all the guns.
Yeah. It's one of those movies where a lot of the pacing is clearly decided in post.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Also, look at the place he's living in. He's clearly the bad guy.
Is he swirling alcohol?
He has such a...
That's
I don't
the thing bad guys
do that far, but he's got such a posh living room.
As opposed to, you know...
Hey, he's wearing stripes.
Nice conservative.
Bad guys always wear stripes, Eric.
Is that a thing?
No. I don't think it is.
He's gonna get a lot better at this.
This guy, yeah. I like how slow this all is.
Yeah. Early
on, because it lets us progress. Like, they could have made all this sleeker. It was kind of ingenious of them to start in that place.
Well, and I think that makes it more believable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's a fantastic through line progression of the armor
and
the technology.
Yeah, and just how refined it gets. Like, you still could have had him taking his time, like, learning how to use the suit and that being difficult and stuff, and not think about how quickly it comes on him, and you know, the technology doesn't seem too futuristic. And I'm just kind of impressed that they even thought to do it that way.
Yeah.
And, of course, his technology gets more and more futuristic looking. Not just with the armor, but with everything. You know, because there's also a progression of the holograms.
Yeah, there's a progression with the holograms, which was a big thing that we talked about in the original commentaries. We predicted that we'd have a hologram room, and we were right. He did have a hologram room.
And in the next movie.
Yeah.
After we predicted it.
I think we were predicting in Iron Man 3, like, okay, the next step is hologram room.
Yep, and that's what we got.
And also that in Iron Man 2 he has
he's got a holodeck at this point, practically.
Yeah. In Iron Man
with Civil War
2 he has the he has that phone that's just a piece of glass, and that's a thing that we keep. That's a prop that we keep using. So when the terrorist warlord says, "You leave your guards outside," you say no. Yes?
Generally speaking... Yeah, although, does he already have the ear-splitting device?
Yeah, he's got it in his pocket.
Okay, so that's why he does that. He's not concerned with his safety because he's got a weapon.
Well, it's because they're both, like...
Oh, yeah, that's right, he's going to use it right now. So yeah, that's why they do that.
Is he becoming Dark Phoenix?
No, he's becoming Two-Face.
But it goes here. You can tell it more on Tony, but like it's on both sides. They do like that those Dark Phoenix veins.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Or Rogue might be taking his powers.
Yeah, but we only see it on one side.
That's true.
With him, which is why I said Two-Face.
Yeah. Would it be weird if we found out he was the Mandarin? If like we retroactively bring him back and have him play,
or no, the other guy.
Yeah, Raj. Yeah. If we brought that actor back and was like, I was the Mandarin the whole time, I got punked.
It just took me a while to get over this incapacitation device.
Okay, now he has a ring here. Raj had a ring here. He has a ring here. I'm going to keep track of this. I'm going to try and keep track of this.
So is he supposed to technically be a member of their organization?
I have no idea. I don't think Justin Hammer is either, but Justin Hammer also has a ring on a different finger. All of the villains have a ring on a finger, and is always a different.
Are we
finger.
sure that's intended?
I don't know.
I don't think that's intended.
It was
always mentioned that, and I never knew what the heck you were talking about. I bet that is completely coincidental.
I think Whiplash also has a ring on a different finger. Like, they just kind of all do.
That's just a choice they decided to make, I guess. I bet that has nothing to do with thinking about the Mandarin, because those are all unrelated characters that have nothing to do with each other. Most of them.
Well, yeah. But they're all the bad guys?
Right, but, like, okay, so even if they did it, it couldn't be a story thing. It couldn't be, like, a thing that we're building to, and it's a culmination. Oh, they were all in league with each other the whole time, and they were part of the 10 Rings or whatever.
I don't know. We'll never know what
they might have done it trying to throw you off a trail or something, but
we'll never know what Favreau was going to do for 3.
Yeah,
I was excited because he said, "I love this like broken down Iron Man. It's very Ghost in the Shell. There's like a picture like that from Ghost in the Shell, or like on like the covers and stuff. But."
It's also really important that he specifically, with his, like, Road to Redemption story, specifically talked about protecting the people, because that mentality is what's gonna get him into trouble with Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
And then he's still trying, after Ultron, like in this movie, he's still trying to make up for past mistakes.
Yeah. But Favreau talked about, like, his take on the Mandarin. He's like, would open up to an entire pantheon of villains. Like,
oh, cool.
Theoretically, his Iron Man 3 would have been, like, a bunch of villains working for the Mandarin.
Oh.
I don't know. It could have been cool. So, something about this movie...
Or they could have been, like, real throwaway engineering.
But that's fine. With Iron Man's Rogues Gallery, like, if you just throw in, like, Blizzard and Whirlwind, like, that's a great way to utilize a bunch of comic book villains easily.
Yeah, sure.
That could have been cool.
Yeah, you would just hope that they had a little bit of personality and screen presence, and that they weren't like the Elektra villains or something.
Yes.
Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't mean that they have to have a lot of character depth.
Mm-hmm. But at least be distinct.
But you'd want the actors playing them getting to give a performance and not basically be a prop.
Yeah.
For the sake of special effects.
So, this is something that we had a long conversation about one night. If this exact movie...
Do tell. What was our conversation?
If this exact movie, exactly the way it is made in, like, 1988, this is a cyberpunk movie.
I don't remember this conversation.
Oh, well, we had a whole conversation about how we just kind of live in a cyberpunk society now.
Oh,
and this is one of the things I brought up.
Yeah, I thought you meant specifically about this movie.
No. We were talking about cyberpunk in general and how we are kind of there.
We're kind of living in it, and so
it's hard
to
movie
do that
is
as a subgenre now.
But it still feels like today, when it came out, even more so now. If you did this movie in '88, this exact movie, it would have been a fantastic far-flung future.
Yeah, you're in the future.
Yeah, we may. Yeah,
even with regular technologies that you and I enjoy regularly every day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean,
one thing that makes it believable and sets it in the time that it is, of course, is that the only person that has these advanced technologies is Tony Stark. I bet a lot of stuff's not patented.
Yeah, it's just stuff he made for himself. Oh, will this make this easier for me?
Maybe at some point he would do that, but he's not one of these, at least not yet. I don't know if he gets there, but he's not one of these billionaires that has like a whole bunch of subsidiary companies. He makes weapons. That's all he does. Mm-hmm. I think
that's all.
All he makes.
But you know the philosophy, the backbone of cyberpunk is high tech, low life. We live in a world where there are people that can't pay their rent that own iPhones.
Yeah.
Like, we're there. I don't mean that, like, disparagingly, is like they own iPhones. Often, like, just everyone has iPhone. Everyone has smartphones. Mm-hmm. When was the last time you saw a person that didn't have a smartphone?
But the social commentary we were often doing at Cyberpunk things with that is that's how the man controls you.
Yep.
So you make that stuff really cheap, and you make people feel like they're living above their means, and you can get them to buy anything, and then your life is an open book.
Or the other thing that we would do with that is that technological advancement doesn't actually bring posterity. Like it's the anti Star Trek. It's that idea of, well, yeah, we everything's great technologically, but everything else still sucks. We're still people.
Yeah, the human condition is still the human condition, or the other really negative side of that, which is you rely too much on technology and it turns you into something other than human, and so
which is actually a thing
that doesn't increase quality of life in the other direction because you're now becoming something other than what you were. Which
is a big thing that we do with Iron Man in the comics that we have yet to do in the films, is changing yourself with technology. Because he doesn't get Extremis. And Extremis is a very different thing in the movie than it is in the comics. But waiting for that.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for
we haven't really gotten to that yet. We haven't gotten to the more machine than man question.
Yeah, which is a thing that we do in the 90s in Kaminsky's run, and then we kind of back off on it a while until I guess Ellis, and then into Fraction, where he has the suit in his bones.
We go the other way with Ultron, where part of the scary thing about Ultron is how much of Tony Stark's personality is in it.
Yeah.
It is really weird to go back and see Coulson in these movies now.
Yeah.
Just because he has his own TV show now.
That's the kid from A Christmas Story.
So
I'm not joking, it is.
So I believe you. I just didn't know that. So I'm laughing because it's funny.
And he makes a joke about you were great in The Christmas Story in Iron Man 3, and I don't know if it's an intentional, like...
Oh, I'm sure it is.
...thing like that.
I bet for sure. Oh, but it's not...
No, he's just talking to a kid.
That's right, he's talking to a kid.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a thing like that.
We were talking about early memes. This is another early meme. Yes. The box of scraps, and people still quote that, and it's still great.
Yeah.
And that is one of those wonderful moments where you're laughing at it because out of context it's hysterical, and I don't know, even in context it's kind of funny, but it's, for whatever reason, it works and it's funny.
Yes.
Like, it works fine dramatically, but it's also hysterical.
Yeah.
So like I'm laughing at it. Like I don't know if that was intended to be funny, so I can't say that I'm laughing with it, and yet I don't think it's a moment that doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. And now he's Dark Phoenix.
I love Jeff Bridges.
Me too.
I don't know why. It just seems like every performance he gives, I seem to like.
Did you see the remake of True Grit?
Yeah.
Oh, he's so good in that. He will not stop doing that accent in every movie he's done after it. Because he's the same character in R.I.P.D.
Yeah.
And there's another movie that he showed up in, I'm like...
Well, and I hate R.I.P.D., but I still enjoyed moments with him in it.
Oh, he's great in R.I.P.D. Because he's just still being Rooster Cogburn. And he's had a really interesting career. Like, do you ever kind of think, like...
The Dutch angle here was an interesting choice. I just gotta say that.
Because he's lost control.
Because if we... Well, sort of, but I think also that was... It's partly framed that way just because the way Tony is lying, if you turn the camera to a 45-degree angle like that, or whatever it is, they actually end up being almost straight up and down. So if you had shot it straight, it would have looked like a Dutch angle. So making it a Dutch angle, it doesn't look like it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally see what you're saying.
Because the way he's leaning over him?
You're right.
And, I mean, it is unsettling because the rest of the room is turned this way. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but I kind of think we did that just because logistically we actually didn't want them to look slanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to turn it.
Because
now he's sitting next to him.
There's a shot.
That's a cool camera move. I've never really thought about that. I like that move a lot.
There's a shot in Dark Knight I've never agreed with when the Joker's hanging upside down and it spins because he's still in control and he's hanging upwards. I've never liked that.
Really?
Yep. I get it. He's still in control. I don't. Something about somebody hanging upwards really like bothers me, and I'm like, you should never shoot that. Your hair can't hang up. Like, I know it's just the camera turns, but I don't know. It's always bugged me.
Yeah, I never minded that, but...
But I thought I did a really good job. I put a lot of cool things in it. Does yours have a tank missile? Mine is a tank missile.
If you're gonna leave me here like this, could you at least leave me with a box of scraps?
Build my way out of this.
That might be helpful.
We don't know. The movie doesn't know.
Yep.
There needs to be...
This is where it starts to break down.
Well, and here's the thing. I
like Pepper's role in all this. I mean, like for an obligatory third act action scene, it's not a bad one. It's just...
It's a good scene. Like just pure action based.
Mm-hmm.
No, the...
if you came into it on TV, you're like, oh, this is a rad movie, but... Sorry.
The problem is nothing makes it a ticking clock. There needs to be a reason that now Obadiah Stane does all this. That's all you need is some kind of reason.
He has to be desperate because he's been in the background this whole time.
I guess it says Pepper pulls all the files off the computer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I guess that's supposed to be our... This is why he does it. Like, Tony Stark's going to find out.
Maybe... Because, like, I know that academically. But it still doesn't feel like enough is at stake for him to feel like he's got to now put on the suit and show everybody he's the bad guy.
Well, she does have the files that he's going to... That he's been consorting with terrorists.
No, you're right. So, like, that is the
terrorists.
reason, but it's like, in the moment as I'm watching the movie, it's like I'm still not buying it for some reason.
I don't know, I think maybe it does kind of
Maybe
work.
it does kind of work.
I don't think it's the reason he gets in the suit isn't great. I think it's that he's a completely different character the second he gets in the suit.
No, my problem was always... I don't mind that. I mean, if he's just reveling in doing this, does
this anything not work as badly as we think it does?
Maybe not. But my issue with it was always that he's been inconspicuous the whole time, and he's not working harder to try to salvage this.
But how do you salvage footage on your computer of terrorists telling you that you...
Has she uploaded it yet? Has she put it anywhere yet?
Well, she has it in the drive.
Right, so he just goes and kills her and steals it from her.
But she's with Coulson. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, he needs to know...
But he could be working harder to still try to salvage it. You wouldn't immediately go to big robot suit, especially if you take the top of it off.
He needs a failed attempt to kill her. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Is a failed attempt, and because the SHIELD agents are there, and he just assumed they were FBI or something. That's what's missing.
Or he should have been smarter in maybe having at least one secret agent with him or something that was like in league with him, like somebody else on the inside in the company. Because it seems like it's just him and Middle Eastern terrorists nowhere near here. Like if he could make a phone call, like any espionage or a show or crime drama you've seen, at this point he would be making a phone call.
Yeah. No, you're right.
He's not doing that.
You're right.
I think that's why there's a disconnect. So I understand the reason he's doing this.
He would have a private hitman, something like that.
But it seems like he would have some other plan B than just big robot suit.
This is a really fun little joke. Okay.
What's it gonna do?
But this is also a different character for Coulson. In this movie, he is the no-nonsense character. And we get far away from that.
He gets quirky later.
Yeah. And he's not at all that here.
I mean, maybe the idea is supposed to just be that we get to know him more, and so we realize that he's like that, or he like loosens up with some of these characters. I don't know that it plays that way, but
I think even in Iron Man 2, he's still like he says funny things, but he's still stoic.
Yeah,
he stops being stoic.
Well,
I mean, you're hanging an entire TV show on him. I guess that's to be expected.
Yes, but even as we're getting away from that in Avengers, you could make the argument that he's got a girlfriend now.
Yeah.
I think they kind of play
and
that
Captain
a little
America's
bit.
there.
Yeah.
Big Captain America fan.
So we're seeing a side of him we haven't seen.
That's going to be a thing in Iron Man 2. He doesn't care that Tony Stark has the Captain America shield.
Oh. Because we add that to him later.
Yeah.
He's also real young here.
Yeah, he is. Which is weird because he's probably like 40.
I mean, he's aged real well, certainly. I mean, but he still looks pretty young there.
Am I in the ballpark there? 40? Is 40 fair?
40-ish? Yeah, sure. I'll give you that one.
All right. Nailed it.
Yeah, congratulations, really. I'm proud of you, buddy.
And she's like what? Like 31?
No, they're all around that ballpark.
Yeah, no, and that's another interesting choice is to cast adults,
middle-aged folks.
Yeah, which is a thing that we used to do. You go back, you go back to the 60s and 70s. Everyone's in their late 30s, early 40s, if not older. Those are your leading men. Those are your leading women.
I think that was one of the reasons that Michael Keaton was a weird choice to people for Batman, because he doesn't look like he's in his mid-20s. I don't know how old he is in that movie exactly, but he looks like he's in his mid-30s.
I think he probably is about in his mid-30s.
Yeah, because he's pushing 60 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's always a cool shot. Just your lit up eyes in a dark closet.
And it's also the only shot we got of him in the trailer, I believe.
That was smart.
This is something I've never been sure about.
Yeah?
It feels like forced drama. It's very comic book. He starts at not 100%. He had like theoretically he wins this fight like that if he goes in 100%. It's because he starts at 48%. He's going to be losing power this whole fight.
Why do you question him? It's not forced drama because he pulled the old chess piece.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, you're right, it
feels like we're giving him a handicap so the fight feels bigger.
But Stain stole his chess piece.
No, I know. I don't know.
I mean, you're not wrong that he has a handicap.
I know it's always been something
that also kind of seems like a natural progression to me. Like,
yeah, maybe you're right.
And it showcases once again his ingenuity. I like that he is in a place similar to the cave where he has to
why isn't that a meme? I love this suit. Unibeam.
That's great. But I was just gonna say we're in the moment he has to improvise.
You know what I think it's always bothered me?
And it's fun that in a movie that is where the actors are doing so much improvisation.
Yeah.
You have a character that is
very
all about improvisation.
Yeah.
And can think on his feet and comes up with a solution in the moment.
I think this is one of those things where, like, it bothered me the first time I saw it, and it's always bothered me. I think the reason I'm bothered by it is because I love that. Is because it's that was Bob Layton that got out of the car there. In Bendis' New Avengers, which is 4 or 5 years in at this point when this movie comes out, is he can't make it through an action scene without having Tony be like at like 10% power, 40% power. Like, he's always doing that to Tony. Like, he shoots like 3 lasers and he's like, oh no, my suit's almost empty. And so I think when I saw it in the movie, I was like, I kind of already hate this thing in the comics, and now it's here too. I think that's just always stuck with me as like a thing that bothered me then, that we've gotten away from in the comics and in the movies, but I went to the movie and it was there too.
Yeah, because if you look at things on case-by-case basis, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
The thing I always remember is, you upgraded your armor!
I feel like that was a running joke for a little bit after we did the first commentary.
Yeah,
I think that was the thing that we kept doing. So the thing is, he can see now.
It would... What you're saying would be a problem if he had this handicap and that was the sole reason we were supposed to root for him, because he's gonna ultimately win just because his name's in the title. That's not how this plays.
You're right.
He's proactive and he thinks of stuff and he tries stuff and he takes risks. And also, I'll go this far. You easily could have contrived this situation even without the chess piece thing, where like he's got to keep going up, really high, and it could have just been about hitting atmosphere and not even about power. And so you still could have gotten him in this situation.
Do you think this could have been the end of the fight? Because it's almost like a false ending.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like a fake out.
I always kind of thought that.
And
we also have him falling in third acts a lot.
Yeah. Not 2. don't think.
I guess I'm just thinking of Avengers,
3.
but
yeah.
And maybe that's supposed to sort of be a callback to this. I'm not sure. You know what it is, because and I remember thinking that in the theater, because, or maybe it's even more of a callback to the earlier scene where he flies up really high and then he drops and he thinks the suit's not going to come back on and then it comes back on. And in Avengers, we know he's unconscious and everybody's looking up at the sky and expecting it to light up and it never does.
Mm.
Clearly, we're looking back at falling in this movie.
I like that.
But nobody falls. That's great too.
Mm.
When he pulls his hand up and he forgets he doesn't have his glove on.
Because he literally just took it off.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But you know who has the record for falls in the Marvel movies? Captain America, dude. Winter Soldier. It gets unintentionally funny just how often he drops out of the sky in that movie.
He also has the record for throwing people in the helicopter planes.
That's right.
Them.
Nobody throws people into helicopter propellers more often.
I love it.
No, you're right. He does kind of seem like a different character because he's suddenly so theatrical. But I kind of like the idea that he just, like, in his head he is that way, and he's just having to reel it in.
Bubbling in within him.
And you saw he had an evil villain living room, okay? Like, he definitely is this kind of guy. He was playing all of the big antagonistic roles in his high school theater department.
And this is another thing that makes it feel like a really generic third act. Or paint-by-numbers third act. Is like, oh, there's this button, there's this thing. We didn't really mention it before, but we kind of had it there. We didn't say it could blow up, but it does.
That's true, but at least it's like the love interest doing a thing as opposed to being kidnapped.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's good.
Absolutely.
I'm also not saying that's the first and and only time at this point that we had done that either, because it's not. But
but we are still, and we've gotten away from this mostly. Well, Marvel still kind of does this. The really disposable villains, like, he just dies at the end of this, and he will never come back. Like, we're still in that Batman '89 model of you have a villain in your movie and then they die.
Yeah,
Spider-Man does that.
Yeah,
we've gotten away from it more with Marvel films, but it's still not as much as it could be.
A lot of that, I think, ends up being a fear that, since these are franchise things all the time now, a fear that fans are going to expect every villain that is alive at the end to come back somewhere. And I think there were times where we're just like, we're not going to use them again.
But I think they could come back more than they do.
No, I agree with you, but I think that's part of the problem, is filmmakers don't always want to bring back a villain. They want to try something different. And if somebody really, if you really love a villain, there's this expectation that you have to bring them back. Like you're adding
and now
fire.
I'm gonna kill you with it.
Yeah.
No, that's the joke that we kept from the original content.
That too.
Yeah. It was, now I'm
gonna
kill you with it.
But you seem like you are exactly the reason that we want to kill off villains in superhero movies, because if you really like a villain, you're gonna expect him to come back. Yeah,
but I'm also... Part of it is, now, when they don't die... I don't think Marvel Cinematic Universe has a fantastic track record with actually paying off what seeded. The Mandarin's a good example.
Oh, no, you're right. Sure.
Crossbones was set up to come back, and, like, I don't have a problem with him in Civil War. That's not really the role that I thought he was going to have when we make a big deal of him not being dead. It's why I'm not... Like, at the end of Civil War, you're like, well, Zemo will surely come back, and they'll do things with him, and maybe he'll get his mask then. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not great at paying off things that they set up sometimes.
Yeah, they may not do that. But that's why I'm saying maybe sometimes it is better to just kill them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you, like... How cool!
I mean, I'm glad it's not a formula anymore like it was.
Yeah,
you're right. It just we did that because that's
how you do it. Yeah, and that's how normal action movies end.
That's your resolution. Well, no, that's true. Yeah. Your standard action movie, Die Hard, whatever.
Yeah,
the bad guy always dies in a big explosion,
yeah,
or gets shot or something. people make lists of best kills and stuff. We always, we love it when the bad guy dies by getting something dropped on them.
Yep.
We love that. We love it when their head explodes. That's a thing people really get excited about, is when the bad guy's head blows up.
It's pretty cool.
And we'll talk about this when we get to Captain America, but of course, Red Skull's weird, because he maybe dies, but he maybe doesn't die. We do that sometimes with these movies.
Yeah, well, and there's certain things that are starting to happen now where it's like, okay, like we've really established Captain America, but it's kind of weird that like he doesn't have his arch nemesis.
Yeah.
And that's a thing with a lot of the like, neither does Iron Man, neither does like arch nemesis are not a thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as much, except for Loki.
I don't mind that totally, because arch nemesis are less of a big deal in Marvel than they are in DC in general. In exactly the same, because you have a whole bunch of them, right? Like and some characters hardly have rogues galleries, but in exactly the same way as Marvel's not as big, except for Spider-Man, about secret identities, and none of these characters until you get to Spider-Man have secret identities either.
In the films.
In the films.
Yeah, yes, right.
And so that's kind of a fun distinction, between the two worlds of film. I kind of like.
And that's a huge deal at the end of this film. I don't feel like...
That's not to say that I don't want our villains to be more interesting and have more gravitas, because Marvel's not had the greatest track record with that.
Yeah.
We've gotten better with a few things, but...
Yeah.
I mean, I love Dormammu.
The new issue of Doctor Strange came out.
Dormammu?
Yeah. The new issue of Doctor Strange came out. It's called Return of Dormammu.
Ooh, I'll have to read that.
Because you're a Dormammu fan now.
Except I'm not a comic book Dormammu fan. I love Doctor Strange Dormammu. We'll probably get to him. I love Doctor Strange Dormammu because he's Galactus. He's Galactus. He's the Marvel Cinematic Universe Galactus.
So something that I don't think is treated, and even at the time was treated as big a deal as I feel like it is him revealing that he's Iron Man at the end of this movie.
Oh, I think that was.
Do you?
About, yeah.
I feel like I've like at the time, like I talked to people like, well, yeah, they always do that, and I'm like, no, they don't. They've never done that.
That's how the experience I had with it, man.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, people I talked to were really impressed with that, and I mean, I know I was, and, and I remember seeing that. I think I saw this opening day, and I remember the audience that I was with being real stoked about that.
Well, it's interesting because it's such a.
I think it's this is most certainly one of the best endings we've ever had.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
For a superhero movie.
Well, and it's interesting because this is such a. This is a thing that we have taken into the Marvel comics. Is that.
1 second. I love how he delivers Fantastic there, because that's not how it is on the page.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But like the way that and I'm sure this is a scripted scene. The way that's got to be on the page, like outlandish and fantastic. Those are two words that go together to describe something that doesn't happen. And when he says fantastic, he means bossa nova, and I love that.
I don't need tiny cue cards.
And also, it's a big deal, or not a big deal, but it's. This played really well because then, of course, the song is "I Am Iron Man."
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, and they use his "I Am Iron Man" in place of the opening "I Am Iron Man" of the song.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I didn't think of that.
But this is a thing that we have carried into the Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics is much less about secret identities. Some characters still, but Spider-Man. But like, it's funny because.
Well, Daredevil's got his back now. Yeah.
But people assume that this is how Iron Man's always been. Like, this is one thing that drives me nuts about people talking about Iron Man, because almost everyone is foundationally, their understanding of Iron Man comes entirely from the films. And like, I will see reviews of Iron Man comics, they're like, well, he's really quippy and jokey like Iron Man always is. And I'm like, Iron Man's not always like that. And this is one of the things, it's like, well, this is the guy who in his first superhero outing, outed himself to the public, and I was like, yeah, in the movie, it took 30 years in the comics. Like, and we went back and forth on that a lot, whether people, because Iron Man, much like Daredevil, has been outed and unouted like 3 times.
But I always knew him as a character that was public.
But he's not.
Like, but I just mean, like, but in my lifetime he has been, I think.
Not really.
Really?
The big one.
But I never read. Here's the thing: where you have to give people that, and not just people know the movies. I'm telling you, the majority of people that knew anything about Iron Man before the movies only ever interacted with him when he shows up in team things.
That's probably true.
And
everyone knows who everyone is on teams.
Exactly. And so much of the time, it wouldn't even come up that he would have a secret identity to the public, even if he did. And so it always feels like the majority of the Avengers, like he's a character that everybody knows who he is.
Yeah. I mean, that's
There's not a superhero in the Marvel Universe through the 90s that doesn't know that Iron Man is Tony Stark.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, a superhero, yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's,
So I'm just saying, that's... again, to those people's credit, I guess, I thought that before the movie. Like that he was just a public superhero.
Well,
so,
it's interesting that when he gets outed, the out that sticks, because much like Daredevil, he's been outed a couple times, the out that sticks is in the early 2000s.
Okay.
But it's funny because
I thought this in the 90s. So I mean, like, if I thought it, I'm surely a lot of other people thought it.
I don't know. There's a big story arc in the comics called Hands of the Mandarin that is adapted to be the finale of the Iron Man cartoon in the 90s. And Mandarin burns away the helmet on his face and goes, "You're Tony Stark! I always suspected!" That's a moment that will never play again.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah. Well, and to your earlier point, I can see why then you figure people weren't impressed with that ending.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like the Iron Man being a secret identity thing is something that always plays great. Like, it's certainly forced drama in a lot of 70s comics. It makes
so much more sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's only a handful of people that could make that outfit.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the comics, he's the bodyguard. Tony did make the armor.
Right.
It's just the person who's in it is... it's a thing with Armor Wars I've always waited for someone to bring up, is he does all these things in Armor Wars that are like... I mean, I don't love Armor Wars. People love Armor Wars, but it's a thing where he's crossed a line, he's gone too far, and he realizes that, and so he fakes the death of Iron Man and says there was a new person in the Iron Man suit. Once he gets outed, immediately someone should be like, "Hey, you remember a couple of years ago when you did all these bad things?"
Was that you?
Yeah, was that you?
And even if it wasn't, you sanctioned it. That's not okay. I mean, they should already be saying that.
But in Armor Wars, he disavows Iron Man. Publicly, he disavows Iron Man. He as Iron Man is doing all these things that he's disavowing.
But yeah, the idea, that anybody was thinking, superheroes always out themselves to the public in superhero movies. No.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I mean,
it's a real bold choice, especially for starting your universe.
I mean, the Fantastic Four in those movies are public from the beginning, but that's Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and they've always been.
They've always been that way. And that's because you've got characters that can't easily hide their identities.
Yeah, and they don't wear masks.
Or I mean, in that first Tim Story movie, like they see them all on a bridge.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I forget who does the score for this, but he has become a much bigger deal.
They could have worn masks and tried to hide their identities. I don't think they ever even think about it.
No. Because they're...
And nobody would know the Thing was being grim because he's just a big rock creature.
Yeah. But they're kind of publicly outed in their first outing. And they're not wearing any... They're not even wearing costumes.
They're not even wearing costumes.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
But whoever... I can't think what his name is, but the guy that does this score, he's become a much bigger deal.
Yeah, I forget who does this one.
He does the Game of Thrones score. He does the Strain score. He had a lot of TV, a lot of theme songs. And it's a cool theme. I don't think we keep this theme.
No, and we don't... It's not a score anybody talks about.
Mm. And it's a good theme.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot. It's real distinct, and I can't remember the last time we used it. I don't think we even used it in 3.
No, I don't... 3's got a different, much different flavor from
Yeah,
this movie.
yeah, no, it really does.
I don't think you'd want that.
No. Well, and then the second one doesn't have a score. Much. It's mostly AC/DC.
I don't know if that's true. It's got more. But AC/DC's not. Those songs aren't scoring scenes.
Sometimes they are, I think.
Not really.
Okay. And that was a weird thing that happened.
Not
where,
like entire scenes.
Yeah, no. No, I'm sure there is a score.
We're not. Yeah, no, there's a score in that movie.
That's a weird thing that happened.
But I can't remember if they used this theme or not. I think maybe they did. But I'm not.
I think they do.
I'm not sure. Right off.
Back.
I guess we'll find out in like a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because we've got Incredible Hulk.
And then X-Men Origins Wolverine.
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Young Man Logan.
Yeah.
Younger Man Logan.
Or as scholars call it, continuity conundrums.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a real weird choice when we go to two, where they're like, well, we had songs in the first one. AC/DC really liked that we used their song. We're just going to use all AC/DC songs? It's a real weird decision.
Well, that kind of thing happens sometimes, though, when something, especially music like that's like incidental or just something that was popular already, shows up in a movie and people remember that, and so then they feel like they have to sell the next movie on it. Because we've got that with Guardians and just 70s music in general now.
But that would make sense with this if it was the soundtrack a little bit, which we didn't talk about. But Tony Stark is a music listener. That's a thing that we
talked about that a little bit.
But I mean, with your grand, like, we're starting all the things that start here. One of them is music.
Oh, good point. Good point. Yeah. Sorry.
And you know, it is kind of Guardians-y with how much music it uses, like popular music. There was no soundtrack about or inspired by Iron Man. Like, it was all classic rock songs.
So, who is already an active superhero right now that Nick Fury knows about that he's going to try to pull together with Tony Stark to make the Avenger Initiative? That actually doesn't make any sense.
Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Everything else comes after that. Yeah, but they're not superheroes. He's like, I forgot that the first thing he says to him is, "Do you think you're the only superhero?" Ooh, that doesn't work now.
Well, I mean,
Captain America technically sort of was,
and
but he hasn't come out of
he
hasn't come out of ice yet.
But there is fantastical things that have happened throughout history.
But not superheroes.
There's just Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier shows up throughout history and like, well,
that's not superheroes.
Heroes, it's villains. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. Well,
and also, does he know about Winter Soldier?
Ant-Man happened in the 70s.
It doesn't matter.
Or the 80s.
He says, "Do you think you're the only one in the world?" That's present tense right now.
Yeah.
Because you're part of a larger universe, which of course is kind of pandery to fans going, "Oh yay, Marvel Universe."
Well,
so you have to. So he's
but
using
at the
that
same
word.
time, they do build a genuine universe.
They do, but they build it. It's not there already.
Yes,
Iron Man really is your first superhero as far as anybody knows.
Yeah.
Captain America was a mascot.
Yeah.
And then and people don't know about what he did with Ben
and
or do they?
Well, there's trading cards, but I don't know if that's.
But like is his
It must be because Coulson's such a big fan.
Yeah, like, okay, so there's that, but I still, he would be thought of as a soldier that wears a costume before he would be thought of as a superhero.
Yeah, Ant-Man's not a public figure. Nick Fury would know about him, but he's not a public figure.
We know, no, I can't think of anybody else that, like, retroactively, they've gone back and said, this person put on a costume.
That's Nick Fury.
Again, besides Ant-Man.
Sorcery.
Because they didn't they didn't do it with Jessica Jones, and she's later.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying he's definitely implying that right now we're going to put these together.
Yeah.
So you have to put that in the same column as with other things that we retroactively had to change because it just didn't track with what we wanted to do. Along with S.H.I.E.L.D. seems like a brand new entity
Yeah, recently formed, doesn't have a name.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't mean to complain about that real hard. It's just interesting going back to this now.
Yeah. It's interesting.
There's some growing pains, certainly.
Or just we took different directions than what we were doing here. The other thing that I want to mention as a through line that starts here, Paul Bettany. Paul Bettany as Jarvis.
Yep.
Is going to become a huge part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I meant to mention that earlier.
Yeah.
All he's got to do is bide his time.
Are we? No, I guess it happens at the end of Age of Ultron. So we're 1 1/3 movie without Jarvis.
Yeah. It feels like it's been a lot longer.
Yeah, it feels like he hasn't had Jarvis forever.
But that's because here's the thing. And then we'll leave you. But it feels like we've actually had more time, more movies in my mind since Age of Ultron, because we've essentially had 2 massive Avengers movies,
back.
but one of them is not an Avengers movie.
Well, almost back to back.
Is not called an Avengers movie, and so that's why it feels like we've had the Vision longer, and that we've been away from Jarvis longer, because there's not much there's hardly anything in between.
Yeah.
What is in between? Ant-Man.
Ant-Man's the only thing in between.
Or was Guardians? No, Guardians is before Age of Ultron. Yeah.
So yeah, that was just an interesting experience, fun experience. We got to talk about a lot of stuff forward, which is nice.
Yeah, and I feel like watching this with so many more movies that have come out since the last time we watched this, we must have had a much different commentary.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm certainly there's.
This felt worthwhile to me. I mean, because we decided to do this crazy experiment, we're forced to do commentaries we've done before.
Yeah, well, and there's probably some Iron Man comic stuff I probably brought up the first time too. I probably talked about
which is fine, but I don't know. It's a big win for me if these don't feel completely repeated.
No, and there's so much stuff that we're picking up on and seeing, and we're going to track of like, oh yeah, this is from the beginning.
That's informing what we know now.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, everybody, thanks always for watching. We sure appreciate it. Tomorrow, we'll come back with you for Incredible Hulk, which is a movie that I've meant to do with Dan forever and ever and ever. And now I'm going to do it with you before I do it with Dan, but I'm sure he and I will come back eventually.
It's kind of strange looking at this movie.
Do an official one. Yeah.
Looking at like everything else that like even like looking at like Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, like this movie feels really quaint.
You think?
It's really small. Not in a bad way. I don't think that's criticism.
At all.
But we would never make even Ant-Man.
It wouldn't be this small.
It would never be this small again.
But isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Like you said, because the world's not at stake. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not this big giant global thing. And of course, you got to give Ant-Man props. It's probably the second smallest at this point.
Sometimes literally.
Yeah, but I mean, like you know, and that was supposed to be part of the charm of that movie.
Yeah, whereas here it wasn't. Like this was just a superhero movie.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Like this compared
and
to
how ambitious it actually was in that year.
Yep.
It's crazy how things have changed and how far we've come.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it. We will see you tomorrow. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Thanks for watching. You think you're the only superhero movie in the world? You're part of a much larger universe. You just don't know it yet.